What is up, everybody? Welcome to ToothandTailTV on this wonderful November Thursday night. I am Delthius as always, and not joining me tonight is Icebox. He is still on leave. What's going on, everybody? I am doing great. I'm a little tired. I had a 12-hour day today of working and traveling. I made it back just in time to get the show together for everybody. So I'm happy about that. And Listen, everybody, I feel really bad because last show I kept talking about how I was like, oh, is there any upcoming tournaments? Or what tournaments are going on, guys? Listen, there is an upcoming tournament, and I'm casting the damn thing, so I should have remembered about it, but I apologize, man. I got the memory of a goldfish. So I do want to take a minute and give a shout out to Banner Bastion for stepping up and helping out with the TnT community and organizing some additional tournaments and stuff for everybody to join. So there's an upcoming tournament November 18th called the House Banner Team Takedown. It's going to be at noon EST. I will be casting it. I think he's figuring out a partner caster for me. I'm not sure who that is at this point, but I will let everybody know once I figure it out. If you look in the Twitch profile page, there's a sign up on the challenge to sign up for the tournament and join up, and it is a 3-man team tournament, which is kind of unique. I'm not sure if that's happened in Tooth and Tail, but it might be good. Chip, you haven't submitted, man. I guess you do have a couple from the Discord still. Maybe I could throw in, but I didn't get to catch much of Andy's stream today. I know he was talking about some upcoming balance changes, and I kind of have tomorrow off because I work, not really work for the state, but kind of similar. We observe Veterans Day, so I can at least sleep in tomorrow a little bit before I get to work. So I want to go hard tonight, man. I got 15 replays that were submitted. And it looks like a balance patch will be coming soon, which will make any of my archive replays obsolete. So I want to make sure I go ahead and get through those tonight. Nah, man, you can submit one real quick if you want. If you got a couple in mind, let me know. Anybody, if it's your first time here, welcome. In the Twitch profile, there's some information on how to submit to the show. You know, it's really easy, man. You just find your Tooth and Tail replay folder, grab that XML file and shoot it over to ToothandTailTV@gmail.com, and I'll throw those in the game. And if anybody else, I mean Chip or anyone has some last minute submissions, let's do it, man. I'm thinking about maybe doing a 3-hour show tonight. I don't know. If you guys stick around with me, I'll keep casting. So I had some new submissions since my last show, which was really awesome, and I had several I didn't get to last time, but I had a new submitter, either Fion or Sexy Pachinko, so I wanted to get to that game first, because I like to prioritize new submitters. So I guess without any further ado, let's get into it, guys. Alright, spawning in the 9 o'clock position, we've got Fion. And in the 3 o'clock, we got Sexy Pachinko. Alright, so if you notice, you already see one skin. The nice, the Raiden farmers, man. These are some Chinese pigs, dude. They got those wonderful hats on, keeping the sun out of their face. I love it. Alright, so let's take a look at this map. Not too crazy. I mean, Fion's obviously got a couple natural bases right here, which is gonna put him in a really comfortable spot heading into the mid-game engagements, and Pachinko didn't really get completely skimped out on expansions either, right? He's got a natural base there, and there's these couple in the middle that could be contestable, but I'm actually really interested to see if any of the players opt to go for this kind of 1 o'clock expansion in the swamp over here. That'd be really cool to see if anybody grabs it throughout this game, so we'll have to see what these players decide to do. I mean, Fion does have a pretty safe campfire available to him, which would be able to get him for, really small investment, get him up to that 9 farm mark. And if anybody wants to comment in the chat about the changes Andy is proposing, like I said, I had to work a ton today, so unfortunately I didn't really get to watch the stream. So yeah, let me know, man. I'd love to hear. I think he said something about changes to the lizards, to the toads, to the fox, which I love changes to the fox, right? I mean, Fox is my favorite, and I think somebody actually heeded my call and submitted a Fox replay, so that'll be here tonight. But Pachinko's not messing around, man. He's made a couple squirrels. He's gonna see if he can come in here and snipe down a farm. He does, and I'd like to see him retreat from here, and sure enough, he does. And I believe he lost two squirrels for a pig, and I'll take that trade any day of the week. And that's pretty good stuff for Pachinko, and it'll start him off in a pretty good spot in this game. And he opts to go for a really quick turret here, and I'm wondering if he's worried about a counterattack, or maybe he's got plans to rush up to one of his tier 2 or tier 3 units really quickly. So we'll have to see where that goes. Make Kasha the best. Yeah, make Kasha great again, man. That's my new bumper sticker. Man, we gotta get that meme going, dude. But yeah, sure enough, throws down some chameleons. Reinforces the squirrel line. And right now, Fion's just playing pretty standard, right? He got his 8 farms and decides to take a balloon. Where is Fion's balloon? How do I not see it? Oh, there it is. Okay. So yeah, I mean, that's actually a pretty good balloon placement, right? Because that one balloon's going to help him secure these 2 natural bases that he's got right there, and put him in a pretty comfortable spot going into the mid-game, which is always good. And hey, thanks for the host, Mishi. I appreciate it, man. How you doing, Mishi? I think I got a couple games of the Mishi in it. No games of Chip in it, though. I mean, does anybody really want to see Chip play? I mean, is he a good player? I don't know. I've never heard of Chip. I'm not sure who he is. So Fion actually rushing for a really quick owl here, which I love these kinds of risky plays, right? Like rushing up to that tier 3 unit feels really cool to me. I mean, I think Andy was talking about that in the stream a little bit. Maybe it doesn't feel so cool to him, but as long as it's balanced, I think it's okay. And I maybe caught him talking a bit about increasing the build time, which would be pretty reasonable, but I'd like to see the meta stay in a place where builds like a tier 3 or a tier 2 rush can be viable, right? Because otherwise we're gonna have a really kind of standard, build X amount of tier 1, X amount of Y amount of tier 2, and then get your tier 3 in the standard order. And we want to see a lot of build order differentiation. I think that's what makes a meta really, really healthy and flexible. But we'll have to see how the changes go, man. I love. It's interesting how often the balance gets changed in this game, because, I mean, every week or two it feels like I'm playing a whole new game, which is awesome, and it keeps the meta really fresh, so I really appreciate that aspect of it. And we'll have to see what Pachinko's going for, and sure enough, it's the Wolf, so let's take a look at these armies. I mean, Fion's playing a little bit defensive, right? And, you want to get these balloons out at a reasonable time, but it's kind of like a catch-22 or a double-edged sword with defensive structures, because that's 240 food worth of, 240 food worth of food, I guess. I don't know where I was going with that, but, that could have been in farms or an army or something. So it's really hard to gauge, and there's a big art in deciding, when and where to place down your defensive structures. If you feel like, maybe you're in a spot where the enemy's going to gear on some aggression, and, but overall, I don't think it's too bad. I mean, I think this back balloon, it might not be too necessary, because there's another concept of like a main attack path versus other attack paths you got to think about too, right? Like this one balloon does a fantastic job of giving Fion a lot of map presence and control, and keeps his bases safe. And yeah, the idea behind the second balloon over here is like, well, Pachinko could possibly run up here and come around this way, but you'd be surprised, man. I mean, that does happen every now and then, but a lot of people get tunnel vision on a certain attack path. And oh, here we go, another skin right here. We got Christmas Falcons, man. They got their little Santa hat on. They're in the holiday spirit. And how come we always forget about Thanksgiving? You ever notice that? We go straight from Halloween right to Christmas, man. And Thanksgiving's like my favorite holiday, dude. I love Thanksgiving. You get to see all your family, eat some great food, argue with your uncles about politics. It's always a good time. But Fion's really going for this high-end army composition here. He's already got 2 owls out. He's working on a fox, and he's macroing pretty heavily. Meanwhile, Sexy Pachinko has kind of got a bit more of the standard, death ball style army, right? Like a ton of tier 1, a good hefty amount of tier 2, and a wolf on the back end to just buff the hell out of everybody. So this is going to turn out to be a really interesting mid-game here, and both these players just kind of taking their time and gearing up, and nobody's in too much of a hurry to attack. And I actually really like this expansion take from Pachinko, because now he's starting to apply pressure, in a indirect way to Fion, right? Because if Fion just sits back and lets Pachinko just claim this gristmill, well, this other gristmill's basically his as well, as long as he can kind of maintain that area. And we'll have to see. I mean, Fion looks like he's gearing up for his first major attack. We got some cyborg owls going on, and oh right, we got the Christmas army over here shooting death of presents. Death presents are always the best, right? So far, Pachinko's dealing with the owls' mice fairly well, but it's kind of interesting when you're fighting against owls, right? Like, you have to be really careful not to do anything super crazy, but it's really hard to take advantage of your tempo and momentum when you're against owls, because you have to be very, very sure, like, after you wipe all those mice, I can come in here and take advantage of that. And that's exactly what Pachinko's doing. I actually think this replay is really highlighting how to effectively play against an owl-based player, right? Because after that main engagement, if Pachinko would have backed off, then Fion would have got very, very far ahead with his owls, you know, giving him all those free units to trade with the squirrels mainly of Pachinko's army. But you know, Pachinko wiped all the owls' mice, right? And then he pushed the aggression. He didn't give his opponent's owls time to, you know, recuperate and get a whole bunch more mice out, and you know, really got some effective damage done in that engagement there. You know, knocked out Fion's main mining expansion, knocked out a tier 3 Warren, and I think a couple tier 1 Warrens as well. And this is going to be a pretty rough spot for Fion to defend against. I mean, I love the use of ferrets here to just kind of add that consistent damage to the back line and keep Fion on his toes with his micro. And coming in here for the attack, and I actually really love this split, right, of like 30 squirrels is kind of crazy, but you know, a whole bunch of squirrels on the front line to tank and buffer and kind of linebacker for your falcons. If you notice, these falcons have been staying alive in this engagement very, very effectively, and Pachinko's really pushing the issue here. He's not messing around, man. He's coming in, he smells blood in the water, and he wants to seal the deal on this game right here, right now. And you know, I think it was pretty good calculated play out of Pachinko here to, you know, not just sit back. You know, it can be kind of scary when your opponent's got some balloons up, he's got some owls up, and you're aware of it, but Pachinko pulled the trigger at a really good time, I feel like, and prevented his opponent from just getting this crazy three base economy going with owl production, you know, because, you know, dealing with like 2 owls worth of mice is not the craziest thing in the world, but you know, dealing with 5 owls gets pretty crazy. So great game, man. Alright, sorry, I'm actually in my office now. Normally my wife streams too, but she takes a break tonight, so I normally during the stream I get kicked out to the kitchen and I have to like scramble for a second monitor, but I actually do have a second monitor now, so I can kind of look at the chat a little better. Mishi's saying Kasha is pretty strong in the PTR, so that's pretty interesting. Why you hating on the holiday skins, Nikki? We need some Thanksgiving skins, man. Alright. So, I do have a few other new submissions mixed in here, but I kind of tried to respect the chronological order. So we're going to go into a couple I didn't get to on Tuesday, and we got some new ones sprinkled in every here and there. And if you got a last minute submission, man, let me know. I'd be probably down to do it. I'm pretty down to go for a longer time tonight because I like quote unquote have tomorrow off, but I have too much work to do to really take the whole day off. But I could probably sleep in and hang out with you nerds pretty late tonight as long as I got the energy to keep going, but I think I'll be fine. Let's do this, guys. Let's go into Sakuya versus Laden. Alright, spawning in the 7 o'clock, we got Sakuya. And in the 2 o'clock, we've got Laden. Pretty interesting. Both players taking moles here, so I'd like to see what comes out of that. And I'm not so sure. I think the meta game of like going for that 4-farm, super hard mole aggression is kind of out of popularity now, and I feel like the mole is kind of back to that intended purpose a little bit of, you know, being this unit that can help you reinforce an attack or a defense at the last minute, be very clutch. So I'd love to see how that comes out. And sure enough, Laden's going for a 5-farm Warren here, so maybe his idea is to do like a 5-farm double Warren and perhaps reinforce that with moles, but as I say that, it looks like he's going to take this campfire. Sure enough does, and Sequoia scouts it immediately, and we'll have to see if that triggers Sequoia to go into some aggression, or if he's just going to sit back and allow his opponent to take that campfire, which isn't the biggest deal in the world, and that's a pretty defendable campfire for Laden, but sure enough, he cancels it, so he's really just trying to mind game his opponent, but Sequoia is being very vigilant with this scouting, and that's something that's really important. Guys, if maybe you're a new player to Tooth and Tail or something, you want to be constantly scouting your opponent in the early game, right? Because you might see him go something like a 4-farm double Warren, and you're like, oh crap, I got a big attack coming on, but right after your commander leaves, your opponent might sell those 2 Warrens and throw down a bunch of farms, and all of a sudden he's got a much better economy than you. So, yeah, this is it. So Sequoia is building a mole here, and he's building, a couple squirrels to keep reinforcing his push, and when you build a mole, moles are kind of like banelings if you've ever played StarCraft 2, right? Like, you don't really want to make them until you're ready to engage. So that mole gets in there, doesn't do a ton of damage, but the big functionality of the mole in that engagement was to tank a lot of the damage up front for the squirrels, which are kind of like your DPS units in the back. And this attack out of Sequoia is being very successful here, even with Laden's defender's advantage. And, I'm kind of surprised, to be honest, because Laden really didn't mess around with his Warren timing, right? Like, he went for a 5-farm Warren, and then he went 6-farm Warren. But Sequoia's aggression, came at a really good time. I love this, taking the proxy campfire right here out of his opponent's base. Now he can throw down an aggressive turret. That'd be a really good play. Yeah, sure enough, he does. And that's going to put Laden in a really tight spot here, because if the Laden allows that turret to get up, it's going to be very, very difficult to recover. And unfortunately for Laden here, he really doesn't have any units left over to contest that turret, so the turret gets up, and Sequoia's got a lot of good stuff coming for him on this front now, right? Like, of course, he's got the extra money from the campfire, but he's also got the territory over here, which heals your units, as you can see, allows them to build that turret, in spitting range of Laden's base here. So, I don't know, man. I'm not so sure how Laden can come back in this game. Moles would be pretty good, but he doesn't really even have enough money to get his squirrel count going again. And Sequoia coming in here for the big push on the gristmill. He's deciding now's the time to end this game. It might work out for him. We'll have to see. I mean, he's doing a really good job maintaining his tempo, right? Like, he took a really favorable engagement up front, and then he never allowed his opponent to rebuild his army. So that's going to make it very difficult for Laden to defend this attack, and rightfully so. I mean, it's a really fine line to draw when you have tempo and you have momentum to not overextend. And I think Sequoia did a really good job that game showcasing how you can take your tempo advantage and use that to come in, pick off a pig, run back, heal up a little bit and re-engage. You got to be really careful not to overextend in Tooth and Tail, because the defender's advantage is pretty significant. Make lizards great again. No, man, make the fox great again, dude. Hashtag Kasha 2020. Alright, let's get into another match, guys. That was a pretty short one. Bonk vs. Trekker. Let's do it. Ooh, I love the rain on this map. It's nice and rainy and swampy. It reminds me of Florida. Alright, spawning in the 6 o'clock position, we've got Bonk. And in the 1 o'clock, we've got Trekker. Alright, so kind of distracted by just how nice this map looks, right? Like, it's not saturated with doodads or trees or high ground or anything. It's pretty wide open. Bonk does have this nice natural base to him, but it's a little bit of a pain in the ass to kind of walk all the way around here to get to it, right? We'll have to see if that plays out a little bit. And man, if this little piece of high ground just had like one ramp so you get up to it, that would be such a glorious place to throw down a turret. But meanwhile, Trekker, dude, he has got the setup over here. I mean, look at this, like 3 gristmills that are really easily defendable. I'd like to see Trekker, maybe take, either this gristmill over here or perhaps this leftmost one to expand his territory a little bit forward and place a couple turrets like right here in this marsh to really start splitting off the map. And the map isn't unbalanced or anything, right? I mean, Bonk's got a pretty good natural to him. He's got this third over here, which will be pretty easy to defend since this high ground does not have any kind of access to it. You know, that high ground, well, it does in the back end, but not in a way that's going to allow Bonk to, say, like, come up right there, for example, and really start harassing the space. So that high ground around this third base for Trekker is a little bit negligible. And then you've got these other three bases over here, which are really going to define this game if it goes later, right? Like, you know, both players have a good amount of gristmills that are kind of next to them. Yeah, Trekker's got an extra one. But these three over here, like, whoever can really secure that 9 o'clock position is going to be in very good shape to win this game. So Bonk allowing a little bit of money to float, no big deal. I like to see what he decides to do with this. Maybe throw down a tier 2 Warren as a plan. No, actually, he's going for a lot of moles here. Ooh. So maybe my analysis about taking the 9 o'clock's not going to be very relevant this game because it doesn't look like Bonk's messing around, man. It looks like he's gearing up for some aggression. I like to see him maybe throw a couple Squirrel Warrens down on the back end and push out with this attack. But no, Bonk decides to just take the Gristmill for now. You know, maybe using these moles as a way to kind of skimp out on some of these tier 1 units. And at the same time, you know, Trekker playing a little bit safe, you know, getting out those 3 tier 1 Warrens and then plus a turret and heading right up to those snakes. So Trekker's trigger to move out on this map is going to be when at least one of those snakes is done, maybe even 2. But I really like to see Bonk try to go for an engagement here. He built a lot of these moles early on, and he really needs to make use of those because moles are that kind of unit, like I was saying, right? You really don't want to build them until kind of the last second when you want to go in there and push a big engagement. But it looks like Bonk has other plans in mind for his moles. I think he's just using them as an excuse to kind of get these turrets up, you know, be safe and skimp out on some of these early game units and go really hard on his second base economy. Oh, how did I not catch this? Great move out of Trekker to do the hidden base. I always love plays like that. It's going to punish your opponent if they don't constantly scout the map. Like, you notice Bonk isn't even aware that base exists at this point. And it kind of saves these bases that are closer to Trekker for the later game, when and if that comes. So, pretty interesting stuff. I love this turret placement out of Trekker. I'd like to see him maybe sell this other turret that he had and throw that near the high ground. Or I'm sorry, not the high ground, but kind of in this marshy area, right? Like, a couple turrets here. Man, this game is crazy. So Bonk decides, I'm going to take your 4 Gristmill here, and does Trek even know? He's about to know. Oh, he's still not aware. Just move over a little bit, Trekker. No, okay, now he sees it. Now he sees it, and that should prompt him to attack, but Bonk is going really heavy on these moles here. He's got 3. He's making 3 more. We're going to have to see if that's enough to defend this Gristmill or not. I mean, Trekker's got this really bread and butter composition going on, right? He's got a good split between squirrels and lizards. He's got a couple pigeons as healers. Getting that wolf out, and once that wolf comes out, man, the DPS out of these squirrels is going to go absolutely through the roof. So that's going to be really cool to see if we get there. Meanwhile, these ferrets keep launching their Christmas presents, saying "Happy Holidays, bastard" to his opponent. And so far, Bonk's doing a pretty good job of contesting this area, right? I mean, yeah, he lost his moles, but that's kind of what moles are for. They're there to buffer and to be your tanky frontline unit. You know, the moles are kind of born to die. And I love that game sense out of Trekker, you know, not allowing Bonk to get any turrets up on that position. You know, yeah, he gets his turret up on the right, sure, but he kind of came in on a good time before Bonk could do anything crazy, like just build a ton of turrets, you know, right here to keep this base alive. And sure enough, Trekker is going to take that out. Very aggressive play out of Bonk there to try to take that Gristmill. And yeah, I like to see Bonk, you know, make a decision with this money. There you go. He's throwing up a lot of farms, and that's pretty risky at this point. I mean, he really needs some more Warrens here because Trekker's army is just really getting out of control compared to his. Yeah, I mean, Bonk's got the better economy, but he's really got to start making use of it soon. And this hidden base for Trekker is just paying off in dividends. And another cool thing that a hidden base will do for you is if your opponent's unaware of it, you know, they might underestimate how good your economy is, right? Like, Bonk is probably thinking at this point his opponent is just on one base mining, and he's like, well, I've got the better economy, so mathematically I should win this game. And it always hurts when you kind of scratch in your head and watch the replay after the game and notice your opponent took a gristmill that you were never aware of, right? And Bonk really wants to take this game later, man. He fully saturated up a second base. He's trying to get this third base out. And he's just a little too greedy here. I mean, he needed to invest more of his economy into a stronger army because, you know, Trucker's not messing around. He went for a really kind of standard split with his army, if you notice. You know, he's got 6 Tier 1 Warrens, 2 Tier 2 Warrens, and a Tier 3. So that's a really good, well-rounded army composition out of Trucker here, and it's gonna be rough for Bonk to really gain any momentum back in this game. I mean, he lost all of his critical infrastructure. He doesn't really have an army to his name, and Trucker's gonna come in here with his really well-rounded Deathball style army and try to end this game here and now. There you go. Oh, Felix said something about the audio. Is it just him, or is something up? Please let me know, guys. I don't really have a way to monitor it because I'm terrible. Yeah, let me know how everything sounds. Hopefully it's good. All right. Let's hop into a 2v2. You guys ready? I'm ready. Yeah, if you don't mind chiming in, just let me know that the audio is okay. I'm okay, cool. So people are saying it's just him. I appreciate it, guys. All right. Some 2v2 action. Are you guys ready? Let's do it. Uh-oh. Uh-oh. I say uh-oh because guess who's in this game? Insane Jester. But, let's see here. The teams must be yellow and green versus red and blue, right? So our yellow and green team, we've got Burst of Flame and Insane Jester going up against Hercrest and Shotguns. I'm familiar with everybody in this game besides Burst of Flame, and my eye is always on Jester when I cast him, man, because he is such a crazy player, man. He doesn't follow any kind of rules. You know, he's always going for some nonsense, but as I say that, his build is kind of standard. I mean, oh wow, for one, I love this map. Like, it's just visually appealing to look at, right? And those trees, they got a really nice shade to them. But this map is very mazy, isn't it? I mean, there's a lot of terrain blocking some of these bases, and there's a ton of gristmills on these bases on this map as well. Let me take a quick look at these builds here. Nothing seems super crazy. What stands out to me is that Hercrest and Insane Jester both opted to go for 2 Tier 3s, which isn't totally out of the question, right? But you gotta cut corners somewhere else in your deck to be able to do that. And let me take a quick look at the gristmill distribution here. You know, green and yellow have easy access to one base. That'll probably go to Burst of Flame. Maybe Jester could get away with taking this like 1 o'clock base right here. And over on our blue and red side, blue's got this nice natural base here, but again, it's kind of got weird. Well, I guess he can go around through the back, but kind of got some weird ramping, right? Like there's no ramp like right there to immediately get up there, but he can just walk around a little bit, you know, take that little bridge and come up there. Sure enough, Shotguns is going for a very macro-oriented opening, which I love to see when your opponent, or not your opponent, but your teammate is going pretty aggressive. Like, right, like Hercrest is playing really standard. I wouldn't necessarily say it's aggressive, but he's kind of doing the frontline work for his team. Maybe their strategy is like Hercrest will get out a whole bunch of units and allow Shotguns to just go crazy with his economy. And yeah, I definitely got to say, on paper, this map seems to favor a blue and red team a little bit because red also gets his pocket base, but that might not matter so much this game because green and yellow are already starting to make some offensive postures here, and I don't think Burst of Flame is aware of that building turret, but the real story is going on with his base that I believe Shotguns is just going to have to let go, man. Really showcasing these agile wizards running in here and knocking that base out pretty effectively. But Burst of Flame decides to run back with his army, so I'm not sure. Maybe they decided, you know, I'll sacrifice my army getting a whole bunch of damage done and make sure your army's okay, if and when they counterattack. And, you know, pretty successful play out of Insane Jester here, I'd say so, right? I mean, he got the Gristmill, which doesn't seem like too big of a deal, but it does really hamper Shotgun's economy, and I think Shotgun's play here was to try to quickly expand and rush up to those juicy tier 2, tier 3 units while his partner was keeping him safe, and also knocking down a couple pigs pretty early was significant, big deal. And Hercrest just kind of playing standard, finally decides to take an expansion of his own, and Burst of Flame, as well as expanding. The only one who's not expanding here is Insane Jester, but unfortunately for Jester in this game, he didn't really get blessed with an obvious expansion, so he's either going to have to make the decision of taking this 1 o'clock base, which might be a little too much because it's very, very close to his opponents. I think probably the best bet for Jester would be like this base, right? It's still kind of on his territory, and I actually really like the style of this map because you have these like 4 gristmills here in the middle that are gonna kind of decide this game. Whatever team can really spread their tendrils out on the map and start, maintaining and gathering and snatching all that map control is gonna be in a really advantageous shape to run away with the game economically. I'm not sure if I agree with this move out from Hercrest. I mean, he does have a really commanding army, but can't really say the same for Shotgun. I almost would have liked to see maybe they wait till Shotgun's army was a little bigger before taking this push, and yeah, sure enough, green and yellow are going to win that engagement pretty handily. I mean, Red had a good army there, but his partner was still kind of building his up. But you really can't know that kind of stuff. I try not to be too critical, especially in 2v2s, because the rules for 2v2 are so crazy, right? But these guys don't have this omnipotent, all-seeing eye view that we've got here, right? So maybe they kind of sense like, okay, now might be a time to put some aggression on the map, and actually, on the back end of that attack, Jester manages to deny that expansion out of Shotguns again, which is going to be really huge, and that's got to feel bad if you're Shotguns too, right? Because he's invested a lot of money at this point into defensive structures. He's got 5 turrets out on the map, and that still wasn't enough to stop Insane Jester's, just rampage of lizard wizards running into his base and knocking on his door. But the real story here is this Fox. Hercrest got this Fox out at a pretty good time. I mean, we're at 520, right? So we've kind of hit that first, gristmills, those first 4 gristmills dying off, and I'm kind of starting to get a little worried for Jester here. They've really got to plant their flag on this map a little more effectively. Jester really needs to get a second base up and running. He's kind of in the 1 base club by himself here. Yeah, sure enough, he grabs that gristmill, which if they can kind of reinforce this position here, it's going to lock these other gristmills in for them. And Hercrest and Shotguns can't just sit around and let that happen. Hercrest has really got to start getting to work, microing this Fox about, trying to get some value out of it. Looks like he's going to come in there and try to get started on that right now. And, keep in mind that Fox needs, the equivalent of 18 Tier 1 Warrens to pay for itself. And good cancel off that gristmill. I think that gristmill was a little bit of a bait because Hercrest's army is really pokey, right? With the squirrels, ferret, and fox. Kind of wanted those lizards to run into poking range, and this engagement might go a little better for our blue and red team here. Oh, but very nice micro out of Insane Jester trying to snipe that Fox down with the chameleons, and he's got to be careful. That Fox is on no HP, man. 1 HP, that Fox lives. Great micro out of Hercrest, for sure. And now he's just going to kind of plant the Fox back, but unfortunately, hits that move all army button, and he's got to be careful to keep that Fox alive, which should be okay for him. They don't have pigeons on their team, which is going to be rough. There's actually no pigeons in this game at all. But now, though, Hercrest should be aware that Jester's got the chameleons, right? So he's not going to, you fool me once, shame on me, etc., etc. He shouldn't allow Archimedes to get up on that Fox again, because he should know that means chameleons are getting up on that Fox again. And great play out of Hercrest keeping Kasha alive there at 1 HP, man. That's pretty clutch. So I like the skunk edition. I like a lot of the chameleons coming out here for the green and yellow team, and we'll have to see who decides to go up to a Tier 3 next, right? I mean, every team's got Tier 3, but one thing I did not mention was in that little scruffle we had here, Hercrest and Shotguns did effectively deny this second base out of Insane Jester, and, we're at 7:45 into this game, and not having a second base is kind of like a nail in a coffin at this point. If you notice, look at Jester's economy compared to everybody else in this game. It's pretty rough, right? I mean, yeah, Shotgun's economy is not that great either, but overall, our blue and red team's economy is really getting hard, and I like the strategy out of Hercrest, really saturating the hell out of that second base, and even claiming this other gristmill over here. Really putting the team on his back. Shotguns is playing well as well, but Shotguns kind of took a lot of those early game blows to the face, right? So Shotguns has kind of been, excuse me, trying to recover when we approach that early mid game, and this is pretty rough for Jester now, man. He's starving, and there's not a whole lot he can do about it. I mean, he's got a couple chameleon warrants he can sell off, and maybe try to steal this gristmill perhaps, but that's a pretty tall order, man. Shotguns and Hercrest's army is getting pretty significant at this point, and they're not messing around anymore. They've decided now's the time to come in here and try to seal the deal. I like this last minute kind of fence and balloon we see coming out of Burst of Flame to try to keep his team alive, and great micro from the Fox again. Insane Jester really trying to get up there and focus fire that down with his chameleons, but didn't work out for him that time. Just the raw army and the raw math coming out of our red and blue team here. Those chameleons didn't have a whole lot of backup to help them out in that engagement. So the Fox stays alive for now, and sure enough, Insane Jester starves out, and it's pretty rough after your teammate dies to stay alive in a 2v2, right? 1v2 is very hard, and Burst of Flame gets a Fox out of his own, but goes down pretty instantly. Hercrest did lose his Fox now, but shouldn't matter so much at this point. And that should be the end. These jolly falcons getting all kinds of doom rained down from the air as they finish off their last opponent. Oh, man. Woo! How's everybody doing tonight, guys? You're all the best, man. Thanks so much for tuning in, hanging out with me. Don't go anywhere. You can probably hear me coughing a lot. I forgot to grab a drink. I'll be right back. Just a very, very short break, like a minute tops. I'll be very, very quick, so be right back in a minute or two. All right, I'm back. Sorry about that, everybody. Got me a nice, delicious East Coast beer, Yingling, oldest brewery in America. Absolutely wonderful. So if you're just tuning in, welcome. This is ToothandTailTV. I'm Delthius. I do this every Tuesday and Thursday night, 8 p.m. EST. People just submit me replays at ToothandTailTV@gmail.com, and I throw them in the show, and I talk about them, and we have fun. Normally I'm joined by Icebox, but he recently had a baby, so he's being responsible and taking a break from video games and whatnot, and help getting his little ice chip going. So hopefully he'll be joining me back in a couple weeks. I kind of anticipate like early December, so until then you're kind of stuck with me, guys. Hopefully I bring you enough enjoyable content on my own here. I'm doing my best. But I do feel horrible for two reasons, right? Okay, so I had these 3 new great skins submitted to me, and I didn't play them last time, but we got them in here tonight. And also, I was asking about new tournaments coming out last week, and I totally forgot about Banner Bastion's upcoming tournament, the Houston Team Takedown going on. House Banner Team Takedown, I'm so sorry. November 18th, 2017, 12 o'clock p.m. EST. It's going to be teams of 3. And guys, don't be shy, man. I mean, it's just for fun. And man, I participated in the most recent Clash of Comrades 1v1 tournament. And, you know, I did okay, but man, I had so much fun, dude. Like, competing in a tournament is just an absolute blast. You get that adrenaline going, you know, you get hyped, you get to see your game cast by some casters on the live stream, and it's just a lot of fun, man. So please sign up for Banner Bastion's 3-man tournament coming up in next Saturday, it looks like. So I will be casting that. I'm not sure where it's going to be. It might be on this channel, ToothandTailTV. It might be on another one. I don't know, but I'll find that out here shortly as soon as I can. But I plan on going pretty hard tonight, guys. If anybody's got a last-minute replay you want to submit, go ahead and throw it over to me. I'll probably put it in the show tonight. I know Andy is talking about balancing the game here shortly, so I wanted to make sure I got to all these replays tonight. Normally I do about 2 hours, but if you guys stick with me, man, I'll go as long as I can. I'm having a lot of fun doing this, so without any further ado, let's hop into the next match. Geez, how do you say that one? I'm just going to say Zamtep. That's not right because I'm not putting the C in there, but we're going to say Zamtep, guys. Zamtep versus Bonk. Let's do it. Alright. Spawning in the 7 o'clock position, we've got Bonk. And in the 12 o'clock, as the best rat hopper, we've got Zamtep. Okay, so up front, I can't really spin this one, guys. The map does seem a little bit favored towards Bonk, right? Zamtep, okay, so where I like this, though, is this seems like a good opportunity to me for Zamtep to rush up to a tier 3 unit, right? Because it's normally really hard to rush up to a tier 3 unit because you can lose to your opponent attacking you fairly easily, but Defender's advantage is pretty strong in this game. And when you have one entrance like this that's really easily defendable, I mean, even better if Zamtep had a defensive structure like a turret, perhaps, it makes it a lot less risky to go up to a tier 3. I'd almost like to see Zamtep do something this game, like, you know, take his 8 farms, maybe build like 6 to 12 squirrels, and hop right up to whichever tier 3 unit he likes best. But looking at Bonk's build, man, that's one of my favorite builds. Like, replace the lizards in Bonk's build with pigeons, and that's kind of like my go-to build that I love to play on the ladder. It's a little outdated now, yeah, because, I mean, snakes are still pretty strong, but the fox isn't as strong as it was, but fox certainly isn't dead. I mean, it's still a good unit. I don't think there's really any units in this game that are just, like, strictly bad, right? Like, yeah, some units are a little better than others, that's going to happen in any game ever, but overall, I feel like the balance is pretty good. And it's really interesting when you watch games where people do something crazy like make mines work or do some really neat stuff with barbed wire. So that's pretty fun. And we'll have to see where this game goes from here. You know, Zamtep actually going for this really interesting strategy to kind of solve. See, this is what I'm talking about, guys. Like, you know, up front, you know, even I said it. Like, yeah, this map looks like it's favored for Bonkco here. But Zamtep kind of recognized that and decided to go for this very, very aggressive 12 squirrels off of 6 farms, and even making some like proxy squirrels, you know, like in StarCraft when you build a barracks, like proxy barracks rushes. He's kind of doing something similar here with these upfront warrants, like right next to this Grisma. Now, this is incredibly all-in, guys, you know. He's invested, Zamtep's invested 180 food in this forward position here. He's really got to make it work, and interesting he decided, yeah, so he's going even harder here. So when he went back to his base, he took the rest of his farms and he sold off his warrens on the back end to throw them up front to just get that even better attack reinforcement and try to mitigate the defender's advantage. Now Bonko is kind of turtling up at this point. You know, he feels a little bit under pressure and has built a couple turrets to kind of compensate for this heavy attack he's on. But interesting, I wonder what he's up to. Rallying his units from that position. You know, these lizards are going to come in here and just get wrecked on by superior number of squirrels that Xantep is bringing to the table. And I don't know, man. I think Xantep is in a phenomenal spot. I'm not so sure what the thought process is behind taking this gristmill here from Bonk. Should be pretty visible to Xantep. Yeah, Xantep's aware of it right now, and just going to go ahead and go in there and knock that out immediately before any of Bonk's units get here. So, I actually really love this game, to be honest. I think it really showcases how you can take a bad roll of the dice on a map RNG, right, and compensate for that by, you know, pivoting on your strategy to be very aggressive, you know, to do something crazy like take a forward or gristmill, you know, build some proxy warrens, and just come in here and absolutely devastate your opponent. So, great game, and, you know, props to Bonk. I know somebody said there's a lot of Bonk games here. I know, guys, it's your fault. You gotta submit me more replays. You know, I mean, I'm still getting replay submissions, but I need more, man, you know. Don't be shy, you know, submit away. So I do have a lot from Bonk tonight. He submitted quite a few, and it was really cool to see. Maybe Xantep submitted that game, but I love it when people submit replays of themselves losing, right? Like, that's a very humble thing to do, especially if it's a good game. Alright. We got another Bonk match here. Bonk vs. Solar. I wonder if Solar is a StarCraft fan. Solar is a really good Korean Zerg player. Anyways, in the 6 o'clock position, we've got Bonk. And in the 1 o'clock, we've got Solar Tide. Maybe not. Solar Tide's his whole name. Interesting pick out of Solar Tide here. Going for no squirrels or lizards, you know. I would love to see him win this game, just to show everybody, like, you don't have to play that standard meta, right? And knowledge of the metagame is very important, and I hope I'm helping educate people on the metagame through this show, but this is the kind of play I love to see. You know, just because something's a meta doesn't mean it's always correct, right? Like, sometimes builds go under people's noses, or you can kind of take advantage of something being meta. You know, maybe Solar's idea here is to kind of bank up a pretty big economy behind some turrets and go straight up to some skunks and chameleons and, you know, hopefully punish his opponent that built a lot at tier 1. So I hate to really focus on Solar here, but I gotta admit, guys, I am being totally biased. Solar is definitely my protagonist this game because he's got the unorthodox build, and, you know, Bonk's build on the other side is fairly standard, and that's actually a really good split if you're a new player and not sure, like, how many from each tier. Like, don't think about what units Bonk picked, but think about the split that he's got, right? Like 2 tier 1, 2 tier 2, a tier 3, and a defensive structure. That's normally a pretty solid deck. And wow, look at this! Is Bonk gonna scout it? Oh, he does end up seeing it. Okay, so Solar went for 8 farms. You know, he took the campfire, so I consider that an 8 farm opening. He builds a turret to be safe, and he rushes straight up to that tier 3 unit, and that's kind of a symptom of this map, right? Again, you know, when you kind of have a spawn position like this, where there's only one entrance to your base, and even better than that, you're on the high ground, it allows you to be very greedy, and I think Solar's actually doing a very good job of lining up his wolf. Like, look at that. Spot, boom, there you go. He lined up his warren timing fairly well to get that wolf out immediately, but Solar doesn't have anything for that wolf to really buff. I mean, the wolf can buff the workers, obviously, so the pigs are going to be mining a little harder than normal. And if you're in box position here, the right move to make is to be very aggressive, right? Like, if I'm Bonk and I scouted out, my opponent went for a tier 3 warren first, like, that is crazy, man. I would build, like, 12 squirrels and just go in there and try to run them over. That's definitely the move to make if you find yourself in a similar situation to this on the ladder. And look at that, man. Solar just stealing that campfire. That is such a great play. We'll see how long it is till Bonk even scouts that. But Bonk instead is deciding to build up a macro situation for himself, which, you know, is not a terrible answer either. You know, if you recognize your opponent's going for greed, and you're not really an aggressive player, you know, a good response to greed is greed of your own, right? So Bonk isn't messing around. Ooh, I'd like to see him. Yeah, he's trying to find a way. Unfortunately for him, it doesn't look like it, but he was trying to find a way to maybe get these Falcons to fly over this high ground and hit Solar's base without having to deal with those turrets. But yeah, he's able to do it right here, and fantastic little pick snipe out of Bonk. I love to see plays like that, man. Just total value play, right? Like, Bonk didn't lose anything for that. I mean, yeah, it made him float his money a little bit because he had to go out in the field and micro his army instead of worrying about his macro and building up and that sort of thing. But overall, this is gearing up to be a pretty unique game, I've got to be honest. And I'd love to see Solar win this with no tier 1. And again, if you're in Bonk's position and you find somebody on the ladder going for that really, really fast tier 3, I believe the correct response is to just hammer them with some tier 1 rush, man. Like, just build like 15 squirrels and move in and just overwhelm them, because early on Solar invested 360 food straight into a wolf with a couple turrets, so 480 food into stuff that isn't really directly an army. And if Bonk would have spent that same money on a really aggressive play, he would have been in good shape. And that's what's really fun about RTSs, man. You can't, like, a good RTS player isn't a macro player, isn't an aggressive player. A good RTS player is somebody who gains information on their opponent and pivots. And that's what it's really all about. Like, you should kind of have a game plan and kind of have a build going on when you enter the game. Like, I wrote a really lengthy Reddit post about this when I first started playing the game, where, you know, I would play, and my quote-unquote strategy coming into the game would be to try to rush up a quick fox behind a turret with a few tier 1 warrens to help buffer, right? But you have to adapt to that, you know? You need to, when you start a game of RTS, you need to have a strategy coming into it, but you also need to adjust that strategy on the fly based on what your opponent's doing. It's really a game about gathering information on what your opponent's doing and pivoting and responding to that and trying to constantly counter each other, right? So I think the easiest way to kind of visualize that is think about the early game, and, you know, you can go for an aggressive build, a safe build, or an economic build, and each one of those has strengths against the other. I'll kind of ramble on about that later, but Solar is very smartly keeping an eye on the map here and not allowing Bonk to get up this really good balloon line, which I love, by the way. I think that's really how you use defensive structures. Like, if you're new, you might want to throw a defensive structure like right here in front of your gristmill, you know, but really a defensive structure like right in this front line where Bonk was trying to make it is where you want to do it, because you want to try to create map control with your defense. Like, envision your defensive structures as investing in the map. But enough of me rambling on. We got an engagement here, and Bonk played that fairly well. You know, he went in there, he expended his mice, he kind of pulled back the remainder of his army, but Solar's got this very powerhouse composition, but I love the experimentation of not trying to run any tier 1, and I think maybe the better tier 3 pick for Solar in this game might have been an Owl, because the problem with Solar's build here is that he doesn't have any units to buffer. You know, he doesn't have that expendable kind of Zergling or Zealot or Marine kind of unit, right, to be on the front lines. You know, tank the damage, yeah, deal some out of their own, sure, but, you know, really make sure that the rest of his units are nice and protected. But as I say that, man, Solar is not screwing around. He really took advantage. Oh, why aren't the snakes? The snakes can't attack the balloons? They should be able to. I know they can't poison buildings anymore, but they should certainly be able to attack those. But the big difference there, the reason why Solar won that attack so well, is if you notice, Bonk invested very, very hard into this third base before Solar did, so that all this money that Bonk put, you know, 6 times 60 times 9, 540 food. So that 540 food that Bonk invested into this third base, Solar at that point in the game had invested into his army. So he was able to come in and take a pretty favorable engagement. But if Bonk can kind of just like hold the fort, right? I mean, he's got a really strong economy going, And Solar's not messing around in his economy either. I mean, it's literally right behind Bonk. So I'd love to see Bonk try to just like hold on, hold back, and build a ton of owls here, man. If he can get up to that 2, 3, 4, 5 owl count, he's going to be in phenomenal position. And good move taking those balloons there just a little bit out of line of sight for Solar. You know, if he tried to build those balloons right up on the front line, they would have been revealed to Solar, but you know, throws them a couple squares back, which is going to allow them to, you know, get up and start getting their damage out eventually. And Bonk can always leapfrog those up if he really needs to, but I don't think he does. Bonk does get that second owl, but Bonk is pulling the trigger here, and unfortunately, this engagement is right out of reach of Bonk's balloons here for him, so, you know, in theory, Solar should be able to take this fairly well. Yeah, Solar manages to take out the owl, too, which is a really big loss for Bonk, man. If you invest in those Tier 3 units, you have to try very hard to keep those units alive. I mean, that should be your real focus, and it's not too difficult either, right? Like, if you've only got one Tier 3 unit in your army composition, just keep that highlighted as the engagement happens, and you micromanage that one unit, you know? I mean, yeah, you should be trying to micromanage a lot of your units, but even if you're just kind of focusing your micro on your Tier 3, that's basically good enough. And Solar kind of reading that situation a little poorly, though, and runs in underneath all those balloons and kind of gets hammered on, and those balloons are really splitting the map effectively here. I mean, Bonk's got 3 campfires to his name. He's got that last remaining gristmill, and let's see. I mean, Solar does, in theory, have this extra gristmill above Bonk, right? Like 4 versus 3 gristmills. Bonk's got a couple of these campfires to help him out. Great play out of Bonk here, coming in and abusing the high ground vision from the Falcons, but very smartly, Solar recognizes that his opponent's army is out of position and comes in here. If he snipes that is huge, man. And here comes the engagement. I think Solar's a little too committed with the positioning of his army to really run away here, and that wolf goes down, which is going to hurt his chances of winning this game. Very much so, but at the same time, Bonk is down to no farms. I mean, he's got his 2 campfires going, and that is it. I'm not sure if he lost one of the Tier 3 Warrens for his owl, or if he decided to sell it, but it's going to be very rough for Bonk to muster up another army here. And meanwhile, Solar's still on that pretty standard 8-farm economy, which I'd love to see. I think that's a good way to not mine out too early, right? Like, Solar's still got plenty of farms available to him as this game goes on, and very smartly out of Solar selling off a couple of his Warrens to be able to afford the reproduction of his army. And I actually think that was a little bit of a tech switch more than anything else, right? Like, I think he's switching a little bit out of the chameleons into the snakes, which kind of makes sense too. And really, what Solar needs to do is just kind of wait for the rest of his army to build out and keep putting on aggression. I mean, Bonk is starting to recover by taking this gristmill back, and did manage to get another owl out. And these Falcons are no joke either, but unfortunately for Bonk, those Falcons are slightly out of position. They don't have those Tier 1 units buffering underneath them, and those snakes are able to get up on them and do some pretty serious work to him. But I think Bonk's composition is going to be a little bit too much here. I mean, Solar doesn't have any of those Tier 1 buffer units, right, to tank a lot of the damage and the engagements for him, and sure enough, Bonk takes the game. Alright, what do we got next? We have a submission from the gentleman and Talon. That's going to be a good one. Thanks for the follow, Mephalor. I appreciate it. Thanks, everybody, for spending your Thursday night with me here on ToothandTailTV. Hoping you're having as much of a good time as I am, and don't be shy, man. If you have a last-minute submission, send it my way. I'm kind of going crazy tonight, man. I'm a little delirious from working too much and not sleeping enough lately, so I'm wired, man. I'm ready to go. I'm ready to keep this show moving. I'm on replay 8 out of 15, so if you want to watch this show, keep going, man. I need a couple more replays, so feel free to drop those over to ToothandTailTV@gmail.com. and I'll probably be able to get to it. Damn, man, it's already 9 o'clock, but I still got a lot of juice in me. I want to go long tonight, man, so make that goal a reality and shoot me a couple extra replays over to my Gmail, guys. I'd really appreciate it, especially if you've been shy and you haven't submitted a replay yet, man. Just do it. And you know, if you're a new player, just say something in the email, and I won't pick on you. I normally try not to. Like if I'm okay, so here's how I kind of do it, right? Like if I'm casting this game right here, Mishi versus the Gentleman, I'm gonna be critical because I know Mishi and Gentleman are both high-level players, right? But if I'm casting something from guys I don't really know or recognize the games, you know, I'm gonna go easy on you. So don't think I'm gonna pick you apart or anything like that and point out every little mistake you make. I try to be pretty nice, but anyways, let's get into it, guys. Gentleman versus Talon, let's do it. All right, spawning in the 3 o'clock, we've got the Gentleman. And in the 10 o'clock, we've got Talon. I know it says Tooth and Talon, but I'm pretty sure his nickname's Talon. And wow, these interesting dichotomy between these two builds here. You know, I feel like the Gentleman is going for a pretty bread and butter standard play. You know, he's got the squirrels and the lizards. He's probably going to start off with the squirrels if he wants to be aggressive, because I think the squirrels do a little bit better than the lizards do on pushing. It's kind of interesting. Like, the lizards will do better if the fight is taken out in the middle of the field, but if the Gentleman wanted to go for something like a 4-farm double Warren, I think that's better off if you go for squirrels, just because right now lizards with the 1 range, they're going to get picked apart by a lot of pigs that are going to be in range of fire back, where, you know, if the Gentleman had like 6 squirrels and came in here, he could harass this 1 pig without the other one shooting at him. So we'll have to see what the decision is. I mean, so far the Gentleman is just going straight up to the 8 farms, you know, doing this really economic opening, and this is kind of why I was recommending people try more aggressive builds on the ladder, right? Because, you know, both these guys are very good players, and this is the meta, to go straight up to 8 farms. But if we don't have guys going for those really aggressive early game plays, then the early game could become stale, because as I was saying earlier, you know, there's kind of 3 choices you have in the early game of any RTS. You can go for an aggressive build, a safe build, or an economic build. And it's a little bit rock, paper, scissors on which opener you go for, right? Like, the aggressive build will punish the economic build, right? The safe build will punish the aggressive build, and the economic build will punish the safe build. So it's really cool when the early game has those like 3 options you can possibly go for. You know, Gentleman did sneak this campfire, but Talon's being pretty on point with his scouting. But this might be that opportunity the Gentleman was going for here. Yeah, great catch. Oh my god, that was actually brilliant. I wonder if the Gentleman took that campfire as bait. And as you can see, okay, so as I was saying earlier, the lizards still kick ass in like an open engagement like that, right? So maybe the Gentleman invested in this campfire to kind of lure Talon away from this defender's advantage he gets over here with the Warrens tanking damage, with the pigs shooting back. And so the squirrels come up here and take this campfire. The Gentleman took advantage of the quick movement speed of the lizards, went over there and really punished his opponent. So I love that opening. That was a very strategic play out of the Gentleman, and I thought it was really good. So again, the Gentleman, man, he must be a very macro-oriented player, because he went for the 8-farm opening. He took a really early expansion, and he was also going for a tier 3, which normally you kind of want to do one or the other, right? Like, if I was going to go for a really quick tier 3, I probably would have placed it kind of back here to make it harder to identify, and then place the turret somewhere around there to keep you safe as you're going greedy. And, you know, kind of a base race situation going on here. Oh, man. Maybe I'm giving the Gentleman too much credit, but the Gentleman might have built this gristmill to bait Talon out of position, right? To snipe that early, really greedy expansion, which gave the Gentleman an opportunity to run over and do some pretty critical damage to Talon, to be honest. I mean, I think he got, what, at least 2 tier 1 Warrens and 2 pigs there, so much better trade out of the Gentleman again here, and you could really see the fruits of those 2 early attacks starting to pay off for the Gentleman, right? Like, he's got more tier 1 Warrens, he's got the tier 3 on the way, he's got the gristmill up, throwing down a tier 2, so the Gentleman's in a pretty good spot this game for sure, and it's kind of on Talon here to make a play, and he can do that in a variety of ways. He can try to steal the space, which he goes for, and try to drag the game out is one way to do it. He could also try to all in if the gentleman goes too hard on saturating up his expansion. The Talon could invest that money into more army and go in for a very serious attack. But one of the good plays to do if your opponent gets ahead in the early game is to kind of sit back, because if your opponent doesn't take advantage of that tempo from those earlier successful attacks, and you're able to, kind of sit back, play at a little bit of a deficit, but get an expansion up, get up a well-rounded army of your own. That economic advantage that your opponent gains in those earlier attacks is going to be less and less over time, right? Like, I've brought this up a couple times on stream, but you imagine we've both only got 500 food. If I kill 100 of your food in damage, that's a pretty big deal, but if we both get up to 5,000 food and I've done 100 food worth of damage, that doesn't really matter so much. So really what the Talon needs to do, I don't think he's going to be able to pull a fast one on the gentleman. I think the Talon just kind of needs to sit back and really try to let this game drag on a little bit and make that advantage window for the gentleman kind of shrink and shrink and shrink. But we'll see. I mean, yeah, so at this point, they're relatively even. I mean, yes, of course, the gentleman's in the lead. He's got a better economy. Kind of a weird choice out of Talon here. I keep trying to say the Talon to take an additional gristmill. And maybe he's thinking about trying to get a better barbed wire and turret lineup or something of that nature. Might have been in store, but very smartly out of the gentleman. He's not gonna sit around and lose his momentum, and goes in. And Talon kind of just decides, all right, that's as much damage as I can take. And decides to tap out. What am I losing? Oh, the chat's going crazy. Oh, did I skip one? How dare you? I don't understand what I did wrong. Oh, yeah, you're right. I skipped the other 2v2. My bad, guys. Yeah. We'll go to game 7. Okay. I know I skipped it. Alright, let's do it, guys. 2v2, number 7. Okay. Wait. No, alright. These are just a lot of similar players. So, we've got Jester and Burst of Flame again teaming up, and their opponents, Nikki and Yugo77. So we'll have to see where this goes. I always kind of have an eye on Jester in these games because I feel like he's the guy that's going to try something crazy, but good lord, man, look at this map. This thing is freaking massive. How many? 1, 2... What is that, 10 gristmills on the map to be taken? A couple campfires? That's absolutely insane. Let's see what these guys go for in the early game. So far, nothing looks super crazy out of the decks. Yugo's got the barbed wire, and Nikki's got the drum fire, so they could maybe throw some of that up, but this map is surprisingly open, right? Like, there's not a really good choke for Yugo to come in here and throw down just a couple barbed wire and be super effective. So we'll have to see where this goes. I mean, Burst of Flame's floating a ton of money here, so I wonder if he's doing something with that, or maybe he went AFK for a minute to grab a drink or something. Yeah, I think he was scouting the map and kind of lost track of what was going on. So builds up a couple tier 1 warrants, throws down his farms, and so far so good. Nobody doing anything super crazy. I mean, Yugo went for his 8 farms pretty quickly, but it shouldn't make too much of a big deal. It doesn't look like they're going to get punished or anything, so I think the big decisions, yeah, Jester already doing something crazy, man. Going for an expansion. He had to have taken that around the 115 mark or something. And he's even got his units kind of hidden there. You see him a little bit, sneaky-ass wizard. Hiding behind that gristmill, plotting doom on his enemies. And, let's see who's the first one to decide to attack. Yugo just kind of pushing his opponent out. Jester's got to be careful. He doesn't have a whole lot at this point. He can't be too aggressive, but he's kind of feigning that aggression, right? He's kind of making his opponents curious. And damn, this map is so big. Like, you got to run a freaking marathon to go over to your opponent's base to scout it. I wonder if they use any of the map preferences and spawned like extra large, or if this is just a totally rando map. But so what I'm kind of waiting for in this game, yeah, Jester took an early base very, very quickly, which is a big deal. He needs to get the rest of the farm down on his main base, but really where this game's going to get crazy is whoever decides to throw down that tier 3 Warren first, right? So that's kind of what I'm waiting to see, and it looks like Nicky's deciding where he wants to expand his territory, kind of looking around, and you go, man. He's just saying, you know what, nobody's ever going to get to my main base. I'm going to throw down a ton of barbed wire there. Not the most optimal barbed wire placement I've ever seen, but these guys are just having fun, man. I got to play more 2v2s, dude. I got a buddy of mine that comes over every now and then. It's just so much fun to sit down on the couch and grab the controllers and play some 2v2 together. So I need to get that going more. That could be pretty fun. Yeah, Nicky taking his expansion. Pretty standard timing, I'd say. I'm really interested to see what the game plan is from Burst of Flame here in Yugo, because they really haven't committed to any big second mid-game level play, right? Like, Yugo's got a lot of tier 1 out. He's building quite a bit of barbed wire, but what he needs to do with this barbed wire is kind of sell off that first batch and replace them maybe like right here, right? To try to split off the map a little bit. But so far, Yugo and Nicky aren't doing a bad job of kind of getting out on the map. You know, Nicky building this drumfire cannon, which is definitely going to help seal the deal for all 4 of those bases, basically, excuse me. Jester, though, taking advantage of a nice little timing attack, kind of catches Yugo out of position, runs in there, snipes a gristmill, and gets out of there without taking too many losses on his lizards. So, good play out of Jester to start things out and kind of draw first blood on the engagement line here. So what I'm really waiting to see is who takes that tier 3 first, and when our green and red players expand. Now, red did expand, so we're really waiting on green to expand. He's floating a little bit of money. That's okay. You know, no big deal. It's just a 2v2. They're having fun, guys. Nothing too serious or anything. Yeah, these drumfire cannons, man. Good placement of these drumfire cannons. Like, you kind of got this castle of gristmills over here, right? These 4 in this like diamond position, and same deal going on up north. So I think this placement out of that drumfire there for Nicky is absolutely fantastic. He can defend most of his base, you know, basically all these bases with that one drumfire cannon. Throws that other drumfire cannon down because, hey, why not? It's a free-for-all, man. Or not a free-for-all, rather. It's a 2v2. And there we go. Burst of Flame, Burst to Flame. I keep saying Burst of Flame. Or maybe it's Burst Ta Flame. I don't know. But he's the first guy brave enough to grab a tier 3 war and gets that Fox out, which is a great decision. And he's actually got some pretty good room on this map to micro the hell out of that Fox, right? Like, he doesn't have to go through water or anything like that that's going to slow it down and make it very difficult. He can kind of come in, snipe, run out, and rinse and repeat over and over again. But what I'm really worried about here is Jester does have the Owl. And Jester is heavily investing in map presence and economy at this point, as well as Nicky is in this upper base. So kind of splitting the map, and actually very evenly. Actually, yeah, exactly evenly, right? Because both teams have their starting gristmill plus 5 extras, right? Because green and yellow got this one, and then this 4 diamond area at the bottom. Meanwhile, blue and red got the diamond up top, and then this space right here. So Burst of Flame decided now's the time to move out and start harassing with this Fox, and that's what's so much fun about the Fox, man. Just running in and out, grabbing a kill, grabbing some damage, trying to keep it alive. And Nicky decides to go up to the board at this point, and these guys are just gearing up for a crazy mid-game play. And I might actually go to ×2 just for a little bit as this game progresses, and see what these players decide to do, and see how hard they decide to macro. And Jester's definitely not messing around. He's even getting his third base started, throwing down some more drumfire cannons. We are on ×2 speed here, just to keep the thing moving. So there we go, Nicky getting a third base as well. And everyone's just kind of posturing, and now that Yugo's got these ferrets out, it's going to become a lot harder for Jester to just take this bottom diamond for free. And Jester's invested a lot into these turrets, right? And over time, if Yugo's got good micro, he can just go ahead and rail dome those turrets and be fairly good to go. And I like to see Yugo help out his buddy a little bit up here and throw down some barbed wire maybe right here to kind of deny this entire top of the map. And you know, Burst 2 Flame does have the lizards and the moles, which will make the barbed wire slightly less effective, but come on, man, let's see that Falcon micro, man. Just micro your Falcons up and take that Drumfire out for free. But Nikki probably isn't going to let that happen, but Nikki's slightly out of position. Now's your time, man, do it. Yeah! Good value there. Oh, Jester's coming in with the distraction technique. And on the back end of it, Burst of Flame came in here and knocked out 2 Drumfire cannons. I mean, that's a pretty big deal, guys. I mean, yeah, Jester lost a good chunk of his chameleons. But that's kind of a really cool bait and switch play out of our green and yellow team here, right? I mean, they got 360 food worth of damage done just taking out those 2 Drumfire cannons. Burst of Flame didn't lose a single unit doing it. And yeah, Jester took a little bit of damage, but Jester should have the economy on the back end to be able to afford that. And Jester is now going up to those owls, so that's going to be a big deal. And right now, I mean, yeah, Jester doesn't have a crazy amount of farms out or anything, but he's got the potential to get more. Oh, I didn't even notice the pig's little Fu Manchu mustaches, dude. Look at that. That is so awesome. Props to Awkward Fish Guy. He made the pig skin and the Santa Falcons and then a cyborg owl. So really cool, man. I love to see these community skins. Ologian is responsible for the rest of the skins on my show, and now we got some skins from a couple different people. Good attack out of Yugo here. Taking advantage of Insane Jester being out of position to just come in here, rail down those defensive structures, knock out a gristmill, and I love to see him to just return home from here. I mean, he got some good damage done. He doesn't want to engage in a 2v1 situation, and Nikki's not going to let his bro get 2v1 to pawn, and starts posturing to get in position for the counter attack, but Nikki doesn't want to step too out of position at the same time, right? I mean, he can't move all the way down here and then allow his opponent to come in and hit him from the backside, but Yugo, man, he is got balls of steel here, dude, running into a 1v2 situation, and this would have been a good opportunity for Nikki to, oh my god, no, it wouldn't have, because these 8 freaking balloons are up, so never mind. But running into a 1v2 is never a good idea, guys. That's what kind of makes 2v2 so challenging, is because you really have to coordinate with your teammate and work together to decide on when and where you want to engage. So how are people getting the custom skins? So they're actually just files. If you look on the Twitch profile page, I have a link to all the skins that Logan made. I just threw up these new skins from Awkward Fish Guy. I gotta double check it's okay with him, but if it is, we'll throw those skins on there as well. It's not super complicated to replace your skins. I can kind of talk about it in more detail later. But all you have to do is go to Properties and Steam on Tooth and Tail, hit Browse Local Files, and then find the Actors folder. And then you just copy and paste the sprite sheets over, and it adds a new skin for your game. So I try to showcase all the skins these lovely content creators are making on the show, and that's why you see all of them. I don't have the sock snake skin though, so if somebody wants to send that my way, that'd be really cool. Alright, Jester coming in here to just use his mice, man. You know, he doesn't have to commit over to that, but he really can't lose these owls, you know. As weird as it is to say in this position, you know, Jester's economy is really not that great anymore. Losing that forward gristmill was kind of a big deal for him, but again, this 1v2 situation is happening again for Yugo. And it might just be a symptom of a little bit of lack of coordination on the blue and red team here. I mean, Nikki's army is super powerful, though. Nikki hasn't really been engaged in a whole lot of trades this game, so look at this. I mean, Nikki's been allowed to just take all of this area up here. Macro is hard out, and Nikki's probably saving this last base for his buddy. Got goes up to another boar. But dude, look at all these balloons, man. And that is insane. 11 balloons out for Burst of Flame here. And those balloons really need to kind of be moved down here, right? Because this area is not going to be your main focus anymore. I mean, it does cut off any counterattack attempt that Nikki might make, but here we go. Now our blue and red team are joining their army together, and man, that is quite an army indeed. And Nikki does have that boar. I'd like to see him wait for that boar before they commit too hard to this attack, and now we're going to get a proper engagement here of both armies together. Logan says he will quit skin making if he replaces skins. Hey, Logan, I haven't replaced any of your skins. And you still owe me a chameleon skin. So get on that. But yeah, no, actually, I don't know if it was luck or anything, but the 3 new skins I got tonight didn't overlap with any of the skins you submitted, so pretty cool to see. Yeah, man. I've been waiting. Logan sent like a teaser of like an Executioner Chameleon like a week ago or something in the Discord. So I can't wait for that to come out. That's gonna be awesome for sure. Like, what's not? Yeah, there's still several left that haven't been skinned yet. I think it'd be really cool to see like a StarCraft Ghost Fox, right? Like all futuristic. That would be pretty dope. Maybe like a Dragon Ball Z Scouter over her eye or something with like a futuristic looking rifle. Oh, it doesn't really go with the theme of Tooth and Tail, but could be a cool one to add in. I don't know. Let's get some robots in here, guys. What do you think? And the boar and those toads making quick work of all those mice out of Insane Jester here. And they really got to get something done. I mean, Nikki's economy is still going strong, but that is basically it in this game. And Yugo kind of scrambling to build this expansion at the last minute before he starves. And at the meantime, though, Burst of Flame is coming in here and absolutely devastating all the infrastructure of our blue and red team here. Which, yeah, they didn't knock out any mining base, but that's a pretty big deal, man. I mean, Burst of Flame ended up getting a ton of warrens out of this nice little counterattack on the backside. And oh, man, he missed this tier 3 warren from Yugo here. Let's see if this boar manages to sneak out. Sneaky, sneaky boar. This is a crazy game, man. I kind of favored Nikki and Yugo's position here because they have the better economy, of course, but it is going to be rough to break through all this defense coming out of our green and yellow team, especially with these drumfire cannons on the way from Jester. They really want to make this front line here, but Nikki very smartly decides, you know what, if you're going to build so much defense right here, I'm just going to run my army around and hit you from the backside, which I think is the move to make for sure. So yeah, it's kind of getting to a weird spot. I mean, yellow and green really don't have much of economy. I'm going to hit that ×2 button. This drumfire cannon is in range of 1 farm, so that's kind of annoying for Yugo. And then Jester decides to engage again and spend all of his owls. He's got to be really careful not to lose those owls, and sure enough doesn't, so not too bad. You know, Jester didn't really lose anything there, and not a ton of damage was done to Nikki's army, but free damage is always good, right? I mean, nothing beats a free lunch, so. Alright, we're up to the 16-minute mark in this game. I went back up to ×2 here for a minute while these armies are kind of muscling for position and stuff. Falcons in the Christmas spirit over here. Man, now we gotta see like Falcon Ferret armies, dude, with the with the Christmas spirit, man. That's awesome. We need like an elf Christmas skin or something. Who could be the elves? Maybe little squirrels with elf ears or something? I don't know. Yeah, Nikki just not Nikki, but Jester not committing too hard, right? Like, just spinning those mice, which is important to do. Every minute you want to use the mice that your owl produces, because they're only going to produce up to a cap, right? So if you don't expend them, you're kind of just wasting possible damage that you could be dealing with your owls. So, you know, Nikki kind of going to the solo bolo, but his partner really doesn't have a whole lot of army to his name to help him out. So, partner's holding down the front, and Nikki's coming in here to try to get something done here. I'd like to see 2 boars, man. Like, Yugo's got a boar. If those boars are together, I mean, 2 boars exploding will take out most units, I feel like. I'm not exactly sure on that math, but things die when two when two boars go off simultaneously. And I'm not even sure what to make of this game anymore. Like, I think, as weird as it sounds, Burst of Flame and Jester are eventually going to come out on top. Like, they're pretty tightly wound up over here, and Yugo doesn't have much of an army to contribute to Nikki's efforts, and we'll see. I'm going to hop back up to ×2 here until somebody decides to move out. Here we go. Going for that engagement again. Jester just slowly over time getting more and more value out of his owls. Finally gets a third owl to throw into the mix as well. So those mice just running in and doing a ton of damage here. This is just becoming a war of attrition, right? Like, both teams are starting to mine the map out, to be honest, and Burst of Flame did manage to get an economy back going, man. He's got all these Fu Manchu pigs over here working the fields and getting that food harvested for him. So he's gonna be able to get back into this game here shortly, and unfortunately for Yugo, it must be that all three of these forward farms here are in range of that drumfire cannon, so that's gonna be very difficult to deal with. And looked like Nikki and Yugo decided to pull the trigger, but Nikki backs off in the last second, and Nikki has to engage this heavy defensive line by himself. He gets one boar to blow up, but you really need both those boars to blow up to take everything out, as you can see there. And Nikki looks like he wants to do this runaround attack again, which makes sense. I mean, this is definitely the spot of interest, right? This is where all the money is getting made for the green and yellow team. So this is really where you want to be focusing your efforts. But at the same time, yellow and green aren't screwing around either. They're coming in here for the big push. You know, got that defensive structure to fall back on, and everybody's starving in this game now except for Nikki, and Yugo goes down. Nikki's got a lot of drumfire cannons, but green and yellow have a ton of aerial units which do not get hit by the drumfire cannons. And Nikki really just trying to deal with all these gristmills, but unfortunately for Nikki, he's not going to be able to get back here to these last gristmills and auto just knock his opponents out of the game. So it's going to take a miracle for Nikki to seal this one in. We'll have to see. He does end up taking a couple gristmills down here to stay in the game slightly longer. Those drumfire cannons are really not getting a whole lot done with this aerial-based army coming out of Nikki's opponents, but all of that's going to get cleaned up. Oh, here Nikki goes. If Nikki can sneak around and take out these last two gristmills, he will win the game. So this is it. This is the proper base race. I mean, Nikki doesn't have a lot of units yet left, but he's got enough. Burst of Flame sent to the kitchens. Is he gonna do it? Oh my god, I think Nikki's gonna do it. Bam! Dude, great play. That was a super fun game. 22 minutes long. Alright, listen everybody. We're gonna go longer tonight. Okay, normally I do 2 hours. I'm gonna go longer. Probably at least 3 hours, but we are at an hour and a half. So I'm gonna take about a 5-minute break, use the bathroom, give my voice a little break here, you know, my vocal cords. So yeah, I'm gonna take 5. I'll be back. Don't go anywhere. And we're gonna keep hammering through the rest of these submissions and knock everything out tonight. Definitely going at least till 11 o'clock. So stick around. Hopefully you understand. Give me a little bit of a break, talking nonstop for so long, and I appreciate it, guys. So I'll be back. It's 9:28, so I will be back at 9:33 on the dot. So see you soon. Alright. What is up, everybody? Welcome back. I guess I'll welcome myself back. Thanks for sticking around. I appreciate it. It was a 5-minute break. I'm back right when I said I would be. I don't lie to you lovely people out there. If it's your first time joining us, welcome. This is ToothandTailTV. Every Tuesday and Thursday nights, 8 p.m. EST. You submit the replays and I cast them. I'm dedicating the stream tonight to the upcoming tournament Banner Bastion is organizing. And it's kind of a unique tournament. It's a 3-man team tournament called the House Banner Team Takedown on November 18th at 12 p.m. EST. Check out the Twitch profile page. I've got the link to the sign up right there. I will be casting that tournament. I'm not sure what channel it's going to be on. Maybe mine, maybe somewhere else. I don't know. I don't care. It's going to be awesome. Should be pretty easy to find, right? Just whatever channel everybody's checking out on that day is where we'll be at. So, super excited for that. We're doing well tonight. I wanted to get through at least 15, but don't be shy, guys, man. If you want to send me a last-minute submission, I will throw it into the show tonight. And I believe, Andy, when he says he's going to balance something, he moves pretty quick. So I'd imagine, I'm not sure if he gave a ETA on when his next balance patch will be coming out. But after that hits, man, hit that tooth and tail ladder real hard and send me more replays, guys. I'm actually finishing up the last of what I have tonight, so I really need some more juice for Tuesday's show. So over the weekend, get on that ladder, play some crazy games, have some fun. And submit your games over to me at ToothandTailTV@gmail.com. So we're gonna hop into another match with the gentleman here, Reza versus the gentleman. Let's do it. I hadn't really heard a lot about Reza, but he seems to be a pretty good player, man. The replays he submitted, he's playing fairly well, taking a couple games off some high-level players like Mishi. I think he beat in one game with an aggressive attack. So interested to see this one. Maybe I'll go a little harder on these guys, as I think they're both pretty high-level players, so let's do it. Ooh, ice map, I love it. Alright, spawning in the 5 o'clock, we've got Reza. And in the 12 o'clock position, the gentleman. Okay, so builds. Again, the gentleman opting for this 2 tier 3 build, which I really like. It gives you a lot of flexibility in the decision making in the later game. Maybe he might rush up to the wolf up front and then throw the badger on later, but Reza's also got the wolf, and Reza's got more of a standard build, I would say, right? And actually looks like he's tearing up for some aggression, going for a 5-farm double Warren attack, so that should make this game really interesting, and it's going to be up to the gentleman to scout that out in time. I was worried about him. I thought he was posturing to take a really early gristmill or something like that. But I'm getting scared for the gentleman here. I'm not sure what his game plan is. He looks like he wants to go up to that 8-farm macro build, but he hasn't been very vigilant about scouting his opponent. Yeah, he goes for that 8-farm into the Warrens, but Reza's already gearing up for an attack, and this really demonstrates the importance of scouting, right? Because if the gentleman was able to scout his opponent, he would have been able to come in there and adjust his build appropriately. And Reza's also got this really nice high ground to abuse for this engagement. Already knocks down 1 pig, coming in here to knock down a 2nd. Does he get a 3rd? Looks like it. Man, that is some critical damage that Reza is already putting on, and this is exactly what I'm talking about, man. This is the type of stuff that meta needs, This is what I was talking about earlier, about aggressive versus safe versus economic openings. Reza went for an aggressive opening, and the gentleman went economic. So Reza very effectively got in there and got a ton of damage done, and Reza smells blood in the water and is gonna follow up with additional squirrels here, which I believe is the right play. 5 farms isn't very many, but it's enough to be able to constantly make some squirrels, right? So that's really all that Reza needs, and Reza looks like he's posturing to try to end this game very soon, but the gentleman looks like he's trying to cut off the reinforcements, which is a really good play, but I'm not sure if the pig count alone is going to be enough to to deal with these squirrels here. I mean, the 4 squirrels are getting a ton of damage done, even though the gentleman was able to effectively get in there and cut off the reinforcements. You know, a lot of damage has been dealt to the gentleman so far this game, and we'll have to see if he's able to stabilize. Now, he is fighting these squirrels out in the open fields, which gives the lizards a pretty significant advantage, so the gentleman is starting to take some favorable engagements, but he's already got a lot of economic damage done to him, right? Like, he went up to 8 farms, and he got 5 of those destroyed. So, what is that? 400 food worth of damage that Reza was able to get in there and deal? It's going to be very hard for the gentleman to recover, and he doesn't have anything like a turret to kind of turtle up with and use a buffer and try to plant his flag back on this map. So, really all the gentleman can do at this point is either try, you know, I think the best bet is to take advantage of that defender's advantage and wait for the squirrels to come in, and there he goes. You know, trying to get some favorable engagements. You know, they're using a little bit of target firing. But Reza's really got the momentum in this game, and that tempo advantage seems to be enough to kill it. So, great. Like, I love stuff like that, man. And a lot of players, especially me, like, I'm a macro player, right? So, I love to be the guy on the other end of the aggressive build. Like, I like to go for safe openings, hold off that aggression, and then punish my opponent by having the superior tech, by having the superior economy. But that really highlights the importance of scouting, because the gentleman just went blindly for 8 farms there without any information on what his opponent's doing. And normally that's a pretty safe mood, because right now the metagame isn't super geared towards aggression, but Reza kind of takes advantage of the meta, right? Like, he knows, okay, the meta is like safe and economic openings right now, so I'm going to take advantage of that by going for an aggressive build. And that's really what I want to see. I still got homework for you guys, man. My homework is submit aggressive games like that. Like, I want to see more replays like that one we just saw, man. I think it's really healthy for the metagame. We got to get those aggressive builds back in there. And I think Reza executed very well there. Alright, let's hop into game number 10, guys. Wistful versus Insane Jester. I'm excited for this one. I love Insane Jester, man. I love people that really go against the meta, and that's why I've been kind of swooning over Reza too, you know, because aggressive builds aren't super meta right now. So anything you can do to go against what your opponent thinks you're going to do or expects you to do, or is the quote-unquote right thing to do, is just fantastic, man. Like, you never know, and that's why aggressive builds are so important, because, you know, if you're not going to attack me, you're not going to put on any pressure, what's going to stop me from building 8 farms and going straight to a fox? You know, getting that fox out super early. So you need to be looking for that kind of thing and punish people who try to do that. But anyways, let's hop into this next round. Wistful versus Insane Jester in just a second. Okay, let's do it. Ooh, this map's like a little nightimey. I like it. Alright, in the 1 o'clock position, we've got Wistful. And in the 5 o'clock, Insane Jester. Let's take a look at these builds here. Both players opting for the Toad, which is pretty interesting. I mean, the Toad historically was like a good counter to the Lizard. Back in the day, the meta was like you had to pick 2 out of Squirrel, Lizard, and Toad, basically no matter what. But the current meta, the Toad, is slightly different. I mean, yeah, they're still really good against the Lizard, but they also do a ton of damage to structures now. So Toads might be an answer to an opponent who is really going turtley or something of that nature, but Wistful going for a 5-farm Warren here. So we'll have to see if he's being aggressive or just being safe. You know, this is an aggressive build. Okay, so actually I really like this replay so far because I can talk about these openings that I've been trying to explain. So Insane Jester went for a 5-farm double Warren, which is an aggressive play. However, Wistful went for 6-farm single Warren. So really, Wistful opened up with a safe opening, right? And it looks like he's gearing up to throw down a tier 2 here, which is a little greedy. No, just another tier 1. That's perfectly fine. So this is the answer to an aggressive build. Wistful should be perfectly fine against Jester's aggression, because Wistful has a defender's advantage. He's got plenty of units of his own, and Jester kind of pokes in, realizes his opponent has those Warrens, and is kind of hesitant about overcommitting. But this is rough. Like, this is exactly what I'm talking about, right? Like, yeah, last game looked really one-sided, but that's because it was aggressive versus economic opening. And then you see here the same aggressive opening coming out of Jester. However, Wistful went for that safe opening, so he had the good counter to it. And now Wistful is very ahead in this game. You know, he's got all 8 of his farms up. He's got a Falcon. So he's in really good shape here. And Jester is able to sneak out this early Drumfire Cannon, which is going to be pretty significant, right? Because that's going to make this natural expansion of Wistful very hard to take. Because that Drumfire Cannon shouldn't be in range of the pig straight up, but with some vision, I think it might be. So that's a pretty good positioning, and also the fact, if you would notice, there's really only one exit out of Wistful's base here, right? Like, he's got to come through here, and that Drumfire Cannon is covering that very well. So interesting response out of Jester, following up this aggressive play that didn't really pan out for him. You know, he took the momentum he got from the aggressive play, and he used it to get out that quick Drumfire Cannon, right? Because Wistful kind of took a second without scouting. If Wistful would have kind of poked up and noticed that his opponent was trying to build that Drumfire Cannon, he might have been able to get in there and get something done. And this is going to be very difficult for Wistful here. I mean, that one exit out of his base is effectively zoned out by Jester at this point with that Drumfire Cannon. So it's going to be very difficult for him to expand. He's rushing up to that Wolf. We're at about the 3-minute 20 mark right now. So Wistful's play here is going to have to be this very one base all-in-y type thing. I'd like to see him wait around for about another minute, right? Like, let his Wolf get out, maybe get a couple more Falcons. Is he aware of the Drumfire Cannon? Yes. Okay, so he knows that exists. He knows that's out on the map. And he's just really got to give him this, like, one push, all-in kind of play is what Wistful's forced into doing. And keep in mind, I mean, if Wistful really wanted to, he could leave, sneak around here, and snag this base up in the noon position. And yeah, Insane Jester would probably notice his commander leave and just follow him around and see what he's up to. But if Jester took all his units and went over here, right, his entire army would be very, very out of position, which would allow Wistful to come in here just with his Falcons, knock out this Drumfire Cannon, and proceed to get some real damage done to Jester's main base. And this is what I'm talking about with the one base all-in play, right? Like, yeah, this looks really bad for Wistful so far, but think about how much money Jester's already invested in economy, right? Like, he's got 2 campfires out, he's got a gristmill coming out here shortly, and if he throws down a ton of farms all around that gristmill, if Wistful just invests all that money on his own into army, he's going to be in a very, very good spot. What is going on with this game? Is this replay bugged? Oh my god, you guys. Is this replay bugged? No? Why are both players floating so much money? I mean, Wistful might be kind of like out of spot to, I don't know, man. Maybe these guys had to go answer the door for some pizza or something. I don't know. But Wistful's got to make his move now, man. He's got a lot of money. Well, he did get this farm, which is good. And I think that is out of range of the gristmill, yeah. So, but if Jester gives that some vision, the Drumfire Cannon should definitely be able to help him out. And Jester is not messing around, yeah. So with vision, this gristmill is in range of that Drumfire Cannon. And this is that big one base all-in I was talking about out of Wistful. Unfortunately, it doesn't really go his way. That Drumfire Cannon just added so much value to this frontal position out of Jester here. So, you know, good valiant effort out of Wistful, and as long as he keeps this Wolf alive, you know, he did manage to knock out that Drumfire Cannon, which is very important because Wistful is no longer, like, locked in anymore, right? And so Wistful isn't aware of this gristmill up there, which is not good for him, unfortunately. But, I mean, if you look at the terrain, even with the vision that Wistful has, it should be kind of obvious that there's a gristmill there, or at least there possibly could be. But that's kind of highlighting the importance of scouting the entire map in the early game, right? It's very, very important. The wolf manages to stay alive, and it's adding a ton of value to Wistful's army here. And Jester's invested a ton of money into his economy, but now we're starting to get to the point where that's really starting to pay off, right? Because if you think about it, if you take a campfire, it's not really worth it until you've had it for 61 seconds, right? To pay for taking the campfire, then now you're finally in the positive. And Jester now feels comfortable enough to throw up a ton of tier 3 warrens. Man, that is crazy. 2 wolves and a badger. I'd really like to see Wistful move out, but he is unaware of what Jester's got. He wants to be really careful because he doesn't have a lot of economic options available to him, so he can't really afford to like run in there and wipe his army again and that sort of thing. So he's got to be really careful here on how he spends that limited food supply he has available to him. And at this point, it looks like what the attack trigger is going to be for Insane Jester is when those big expensive tier 3 units are out. And since he got 2 wolves, I expect that he's going to throw down quite a few more squirrels here coming up. You know, obviously is waiting to pay for all 3 of those tier 3 units before he did anything else. And interesting that he just went ahead and claimed those other gristmills. Maybe he did that just to be super sure that Wistful can't sneak out another secret base against him or anything of that nature. But man, Wistful, if your scouting was just a little bit better, man, you'd be in a phenomenal spot in this game, because this campfire is just so easy for Wistful to run over there and pick off. And unfortunately for Wistmill, he just isn't aware, and that's what makes taking campfires so strong, right? Like, that campfire is absolutely paid off for Jester. I mean, hell, it's mined out completely now, because there's no longer any food on that. So Jester successfully snuck this campfire, which looked like on paper it absolutely belonged to Wistful, right? So great play out of Jester there, and I think Jester really needs to build a couple more squirrels to get full value out of this double wolf he's got. I think a couple of those charges are going to waste here. But instead, Jester is deciding to build a few drumfire cannons and some pretty good positions to kind of still guarantee the rest of the map in his favor. So pretty good choice as well. We're getting a little bit standoffy in this game. I might hit that fast forward button a bit until an engagement comes in. Yeah, let's go ahead and do that. We're just doing some ×2 here. You know, both players just kind of spending a little bit of money, keeping everything good. But Jester, man, 5 drumfire cannons is a thing indeed. That's going to be a very, very difficult nut for Wistful to crack for sure. That is a lot of drumfire cannons, and you know the Falcons are really going to be the key to knocking those out. I don't think 8 Falcons will be enough. Oh my god, Jester, 7. Count them, 7 drumfire cannons. And this is what's so important about getting out on the map early, right? Like, you really can't afford to just sit around and let your opponent just take it. Oh my god, those wolves, dude, they're killing me. I'm gonna put the map over here a little bit so we don't have to listen to them constantly yelling. Nope, 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 nope. Alright, right here's good. What about, like right here? Okay, nope. Alright, that's not too bad. Alright, here we go. Yeah, unfortunately for Wistful, man, I'm not sure exactly what he can do at this point. Like, maybe sell off a bunch of the other crap you have to just build an insane amount of Falcons, but the play out of Wistful this game really needed to be securing this 12 o'clock base, I feel like. Because maybe that would have gone unscouted by Jester, or at least long enough for him to maintain a lot of value, or hell, I'd really like to see Wistful just kind of take his army, run it like along the edge right here. Yeah, there he goes. And just say, I'm going to hit you out of the range of your drumfire cannons and make this a little bit more of a fair fight. Manages to get his army in position, but the question is his army big enough? I mean, Jester's been sitting on a pretty damn good economy for a long time. Jester did invest quite a lot of money into all those drumfire cannons, so... Oh! Looks like Wistful is just barely gonna have enough to take that victory. He's gotta be careful with that wolf so far up front. Yeah, loses wolf, but Jester's gonna lose a wolf of his own. And we're kinda get reset here as far as army value goes, but obviously all those drumfire cannons for Jester still have him at a phenomenal spot. And I mean, if you're Wistful here, you gotta sell a couple things off, right? You gotta free up some money to be able to build up a strong army and reinforce and re-engage. And I mean, hell, I think it's probably appropriate at this phase in the game just sell off that wolf warren, right? Like, you're never gonna get on the economy that Wistful has enough money to afford another wolf. So is that what he's going up here to do? Yep, cool. Yeah, you can see how much he needed that money, right? Because right when he sold it, it was immediately all that food was immediately used on replenishing his army. And you know, Jester's in a very, very good spot this game, but doesn't have an army. And if Wistful can come in here and take out a couple of these mining bases for Jester, he can maybe inch his way back into the game. And look at this, only losing a single toad. You know, you gotta be careful. You gotta micro your toads to tell them to not run into the building. But at the same time, to be fair, those toads did get us some serious work done to that gristmill and allowed Wistful to take it out pretty quickly. And you know, Wistful's not aware of this base up here. I'd really like to see him scout it, man. Scouting is so important, and if Wistful can just identify that Jester's last base is right above him, he could be in an outstanding position to win this game. Come on, Wistful. I believe. Just go up a little bit, man. Just a little bit. Leaves his army over here, but not gonna be too big of a deal. Yeah, nice play. Taking this gristmill, finally starting to get out on the map, and I love this response. Like, Jester built all these drumfire cannons that just aren't getting a lot of work done for him because Wistful's just simply moving around it. And I'm not sure who's gonna win this game, but I know for a fact if Wistful was just aware, and maybe that territory might give it away for him, because he should expect his territory to increase further north, right? Like, all Wistful has to do is scout this base from Jester, and he's got the win. Great play by Jester, too. Just running in here with just a few squirrels that he can afford. And, you know, starting to do some real damage to Wistful's infrastructure. But he's got to be careful. He can't just allow these falcons to come out in here scot-free and knock out all these drumfire cannons. But, you know, 6 falcons versus 6 squirrels. I'm pretty sure those falcons are going to win that engagement, so. Oh my god, Wistful might actually win this game. It's getting close. I mean, Jester doesn't have much left. Jester should have just given away the fact that his last base is up here. I mean, obviously Wistful's got to know something's up, right? Yeah, he just hasn't scouted the full map. Like, he's aware that a gristmill exists up here, but maybe he just kind of slipped his mind. So he should be scouting that gristmill here shortly with his 1 farm economy, but he's got a very impressive army. Come on, Wistful, find that last base, man. He's like, oh, there's a campfire over here, I'll take that out, but maybe not aware that campfire is done mining. I wasn't aware that how campfire mining worked until like Tuesday, right? Like, if all the meat's gone on the campfire, then it's mined out, if you're unaware, so. Man, this sneaky base from Jester. Here he goes. He's finally coming up here. He's got to get in here in time because this drumfire cannon is coming up for Insane Jesters, so now is the time to hit before that drumfire cannon can get up, and he's got to focus that down. He does. Look at this. Wistful is able to take the game, even playing on a map that was pretty unfavored to him, to be honest, so. I love seeing stuff like that, man. Because it's really easy to QQ about maps being imbalanced and all that kind of stuff, but it's really interesting to see how players adapt to that, right? Like how you compensate for the imbalanced map. So, and sure enough, you know, against the odds, Wistful takes the victory. Oh my god, boys. This is it. There's some high-level shit about to happen here. Woo. Mishi versus the gentleman. Oh no! I thought I disabled my Discord noises. I'm so bad. Notifications. Off. No, stop it. No. Oh my god. I'm the worst. I'm probably the worst person alive. I'm so sorry. There we go. Discord noise is off. Sorry, 1 second, guys. Oh man, I feel embarrassed. Alright. Here we go. Mishi versus the gentleman. This one should be a good one. Let's do it. Alright, the 1 o'clock position. Spawning as the best rat ever, Hopper. We've got Mishi. And in the 9 o'clock, spawning as Bellified. We've got the gentleman. Really interesting map, actually. I've kind of got a lot to say about this map, because if you notice, this whole area over here is pointless, right? So this map is pretty small. And I almost want to say the south area is pointless, which it kind of is. Like, you can kind of take a screenshot like this of the map, right? And that's really what the map is. But there's this nice 6 o'clock gristmill down here, which could make for some interesting play. And I absolutely love this build out of Mishi. I think that's really standard. Really powerful deck choice, and normally Mishi's known for getting a couple tier 1 Warrens out to be safe and then rushing up to Chameleon, so I like to see if he does that here. And we kind of got a gentleman agreement game on our hands, both players opting to go for that 8 farm opening. But again, man, this is why I highlight the importance of mixing in aggressive builds with your play, because if anything, you know, this is the map to do it, right? I mean, look how close these bases are to each other. You know, if I identify my opponent's going for something super greedy, come back to my base, cancel my farms, throw down 2 Warrens, get in there and get some aggression done, you never know, man. And as far as the balance of the map, I mean, it feels like it's favored towards the gentleman, right? Because he's got this nice... His first base is really easy to defend. I believe that's a ramp right there, yeah, but... You know, he's kind of tucked in on the back with kind of like 1 entry to his base. Meanwhile, Mishi's a little more spread out. Mishi's got a nice natural to take. But obviously, these 3 bases are going to go to the gentleman. This campfire will go to the gentleman. And this campfire will probably be too contested for either player to really take. Meanwhile, Mishi gets a campfire of his own, and this 6 o'clock base is up for grabs. So if Mishi can manage to get this 6 o'clock base, if we go to a late game situation, it's going to be fairly even. So really the game plan from the gentleman, if we do start to get to that mid-game, late game, is going to be to acquire the 6 o'clock base, right? Because if the gentleman can get that, he effectively gets himself up to 4 gristmills against 2 instead of 3 versus 3, and should eventually get the economic edge on Mishi. But you never know if we're really even going to see the game progress to that point. You know, both players opting for that, like 3 tier 1 Warrens. I think that's pretty safe, right? Like 3 to 5, and Mishi's got to be careful, taking a couple pop shots on these lizards, but he doesn't want to take a direct engagement out in the field, because the lizards will be favored there. The gentleman kind of rounding out his tier 1 composition with some more, just a couple squirrels. So, man, I thought I disabled those sounds. Oh my god, I'm just going to close Discord. I'm sorry, guys. I literally just disabled every single sound. But anyways, gentleman just took a really convincing engagement there. Kind of caught Mishi with his pants down a little bit and just absolutely decimated his army. But on the backside of it, Mishi does have his chameleons out now, and the gentleman might have overestimated the defender's advantage coming out of Mishi there. And Mishi coming out with a very impressive counterattack. Doesn't manage to get that last ferret. 1 HP on that ferret, but Mishi's chameleons did manage to sneak out of there as well, so. Wow. Mishi's got a pretty significant army lead at this point. How the hell am I still getting Discord messages? I am the worst. Because I have 2 Discords open, of course. Alright, now it's gone. I'm sorry about that, guys. But yeah, I mean, so far so good for both these players, I would say. It feels pretty even to me still, and Mishi really doesn't want to let the gentleman kind of claim this higher ground in between the middle of the maps with that turret. Comes in for an engagement where both players trade pretty evenly, I would say. You know, they both come out with about the same. Mishi is definitely lacking on his tier 2 warrants. The gentleman did manage to come out on top of that engagement by keeping his ferrets alive, but as I say, one ferret falls down, and the other one... Oh my god, gentlemen! No, don't let it die! Boom. Gets hit by that Steve Harrington chameleon, and gets knocked out. Aw, dude, that would be such a good skin idea. Like Steve Harrington from Stranger Things as a chameleon, you know? Because he's got the nail bat, you know what I'm saying? That'd be a pretty good one. I mean, we're getting to the 5-minute mark now. We're at 4:55, so here in a second, 4 farms are gonna mine out for both players, and it's gonna get a little more scrappy here. I mean, we got a couple campfires going for both guys, and I like how the gentleman did manage to take that campfire I was saying earlier might be a little too contested, but I mean, look at the warrant counts for being in this phase of the game. You know, still really low because both these players are just trading back and forth constantly, and it's really good example of these high-level players knowing when to engage, when to pull back, you know, when they feel like they've got tempo. I feel like the gentleman won that first engagement, overextended a little bit, that allowed Mishi to get back into the game, but it feels really even. Yeah, look at these spikes, man. I mean, they're kind of going up and down, slowly edging out leads on one another. But Mishi does have a second base, so they are on equal footing because the campfires, you know, gentleman's got 2 campfires, Mishi's got a campfire plus an extra farm. So the economy should be neck and neck at this point. Yeah, it looks like they are. You can only see the blue line because they're both stacked, right? So they're exactly even on economy at this point. We'll have to see how well these chameleons do. The chameleons drop down. The DPS from the Falcons with such a good front line with the lizards and the squirrels just really mowing down the Mishi's army here. And the gentleman just kind of... I love to see Ferret play at high levels. Ferret's one of my favorite units just because they sit back so well and just constantly do this poking damage and just get so much value and really force your opponent to come in and engage on you. And they might have to do it in situations where they don't want to, man, which makes it really unfavorable for them. So, fantastic game out of both players there. Really showing you that scrappy mid-game and knowing when to engage, knowing when to pull back. And the gentleman was just able to slightly edge it out with those ferrets, with those falcons. So really cool to see. And I think another thing that really helped the gentleman out was having both the lizards and the squirrels, because the lizards are going to trade very, very well with the squirrels in an open area, right? And with the ferrets, you force your opponent to come meet you out in the field. They can't just sit there and turtle behind their warrens, right? Because if they do, the ferrets will poke them down eventually. And I think that's really what gave the gentleman an edge in that match. Mishi says he didn't realize the extra campfire. Yeah, I don't blame you, to be honest, man. I didn't expect either one of you to be ballsy enough to take that campfire, but that's what RTS games are all about, man. Risk and reward, you know. And the gentleman took a risk by taking that additional campfire, and it worked out for him, you know. All right. Let's see. Oh, the submissions are coming in. Okay. Let's see here. We've done a lot of bonk, so what I'm going to do is we're going to hop into this 2v2, and then I've got a few submissions in my email. We'll shift over to them, and I'll play the bonk games if we got nothing else to do, which is great, and you know, submit as many replays as you want, but if you are going to submit a ton to me, which is totally fine, kind of say in the replay, like, if I'm only going to show one of them, which one you would prefer the most, and I'll try to respect that. So, if you're watching, man, you haven't submitted yet, now's the time, because I'm going crazy tonight, you guys. I'm giving you an extra hour of content, and I'd love to see some new faces on here, so shoot those replays over to ToothandTailTV@gmail.com, and I will most likely get to it tonight. We're going crazy tonight, man. We're giving you extras, bonus round here on TnTTV. So, okay, yeah. So what I'll do is we'll run the 2v2 match. I'll shift over to the break screen. Not really take a break. It might take me a minute or two to shuffle some replays around. Throw those extra games in, and we'll check those out. So, all right, let's do a 2v2. Who we got here? All right, we got Premium Bow, we've got Bonk, we've got Civilock, and C. Hogarth. What is happening? Oh, is this a free-for-all? And I thought it was a 2v2? It's gotta be, right? I don't know. I don't know, you guys. I don't know what's happening anymore. If this is a 2v2, then it would probably be red and yellow versus blue and green, right? But that would be such bad luck for our blue player here. I mean, well, I guess, let me see. Yeah, I'm really confused. Oh my god! What? No, it is a 2v2, okay? You can tell by the territories, right? So yellow and green are together, and blue and red are together. Are you serious? That is insane. Poor Bonk, man. Just got spawned right in the middle. This is a Bonk sandwich over here, dude. That is so funny, man. I have never seen a 2v2 game that just screwed you on the spawns this hard. We'll have to see what the strategy is going to be here for the green and yellow players. I mean, Civilock and C are in a phenomenal position already. I mean, Bonk's down to one farm from this turret and balloon, like right on his territory. It's going to be very hard for him to recover. You know, Premium Bow's really going to have to put the team on his back here. And it looks like what Premium Bow is trying to do is it's kind of set up to lock in this extra expansion over here. And man, like, what do you even do if you're Bonk here? I guess the best play to make would probably be to sell off this farm, sell off that Warren, and run over here and take this gristmill. Just kind of concede that this base is dead, right? Because you're never going to get anything done. But Premium Bow putting the team on his back comes in here and gets some work done to C, but it manages to really not do a whole lot. He did take out 2 farms there, so that's not insignificant. But the Bonk is starving already, man. You need to retreat, dude. You got to get out of there. There's no way you're going to survive. Spawned right there. I thought this was a free-for-all, man. I thought I'd mislabeled it or something. That's absolutely crazy. Premium Bow doing a great job on his scouting, though. Should be able to uncover this campfire. Gotta commit to that. Yeah, take out that turret, man. Target that turret down real quick. Knock that campfire out. Good play. Loses just 1 lizard. No big deal. Nice. Even manages to prevent that turret from going down. He didn't get it. Oh my god. Bonk is already out of this game. So now Premium Bow is in a 1v2 situation against his red and blue opponents. And I don't know how he's going to be able to come in. Like, what does Premium Bow do in this situation? What a crazy submission, man. This is definitely the type of thing I love to see on ToothandTailTV, man. Just these crazy games. I can't really spin this one, you guys. It was totally imba. There's no spin doctor magic I can do to defend the game on that one. But Premium Bow catching C. Hogarth totally off guard and snipes his gristmill. That's a big deal. I mean, C. Hogarth isn't knocked out of the game per se. You know, he's got this gristmill over here, so he's gonna prevent himself from starving. He took this gristmill on the back end as well. But Premium Bow has been pretty on top of his scouting here and immediately manages to notice that one and can be able to take that down and hurt C's economy even more, right? Because when you're on such a low economy after taking so much damage, even something like 60 food is a pretty big deal. Man, Premium, you are killing this so far, dude. You gotta spend that money though, man. You gotta get that economy going, get some more units out. There he goes, throwing down a campfire. And look at this, just so on top of his scouting. Not letting the enemy get away with anything greedy. Takes every campfire on the map, you know, besides this one, of course. And I mean, if Premium Bow plays this right, he might be able to come back in this game. We'll have to see. He's doing a really good job of staying really vigilant with this little squad of lizards coming around and getting work done. You know, not overextending. Like, he should just run away after getting that gristmill. Yeah, he lost a couple lizards to that turret, but, you know, if he can keep hamstringing the economy of his opponents and get up to a very large economy of his own, I don't know, man. I believe in the bow. Nobody's got anything crazy like moles, lol. Nobody's got anything crazy like moles to do anything swifty, like build a mole right near your opponent's campfire, knock it out, or anything like that. And I like this aggressive gristmill play out of Premium Bow here, and lovely positioning on that drumfire here. And if you notice, Civlock and Seed, neither one of them have any army, and they're going very turtily, building a ton of defensive structures. And it's unfortunate for Premium Bow here that he doesn't have the ferrets to help him out or anything like that. But I give you a gold medal already for still being in this game. Like, this is absolutely crazy. If Premium Bow wins this game, I don't know what I'm gonna do, guys. I'm gonna freak out. I mean, mathematically, it's going to be very difficult. Like, if Premium Bow was able to keep his opponents just pinned down on these two bases, he might have a chance, but he really can't afford to allow his opponents to get these bases up, right? Because Premium Bow can probably compete with his enemies if they're on, like, one base. I mean, we are at the 6-minute mark here, so a one-base economy would hurt fairly bad, and Premium could take the rest of the map, in theory, and maybe get a stronger economy. But the big problem here... but if he's able to come in here and get this gristmill, that'd be pretty huge. But those pigs are doing a lot of work with their little pistols and their Fu Manchu mustaches, so that's going to be too much for this little lizard squad coming out of Bow here. And yeah, unfortunately for Bow, he wasn't super aware of these bases being taken by his opponents down there, right? So I feel like if he was able to really stop these defensive structures from getting up and stop his opponent from getting these bases and took the rest of the bases on the map, he might have had a chance to come back in this game. But my hopes for Premium Bow are slowly diminishing as the game goes longer and longer. And I mean, Bow is playing phenomenally here. You know, he's playing like an absolute rock star, but at the end of the day, man, 1v2, you know, not a whole lot you can do about that, unfortunately. But Premium Bow has given us a fantastic show here, and having a great time with his buddies playing some Tooth and Tail, and kind of being like, "Come at me, man! How long is it gonna take for you two nerds to take me out?" You know, 1v2 here. I don't know, man. I feel like it's going to be pretty rough from this position. Go to ×2 a little bit. Yeah, I don't know anymore, man. I tried to hype this up for as long as I could, but now Red and Blue have a really strong economy going, and it's just going to come down to math at this point, man. I think Bow played really clever. I think Bonk, the move to make this game was Bonk just giving up on this base and immediately running over to either here or here to restart. But it's hard to figure that out, especially that quickly, right? This very turtley style. It's almost like his opponents are just kind of playing with their food here. You know, just now, the blue and red team are deciding to build some armies. So it looked like they were trying to give Premium a little bit of a chance by not building any units of their own. Kind of like a no rush 10 kind of situation, you know. But at this point, I think the numbers are just too stacked against Premium Bow. And it's going to be really difficult for him to do anything with just a squad of a few lizards here. It doesn't have anything like owls or ferrets to really gain a ton of value. Yeah, and hey, 36 lizards is quite a few coming out of C here, so really great showing, man. Definitely type of replay I love to see as a submission. I love to see these crazy games, man. It's always cool to see like the high-end, super meta type of stuff. But I love these crazy games too, man. All right. Yeah, no, you totally can't blame Bonk for that game at all. I agree. No, that was just bad RNG from the map there. All right. Give me 1 second, guys. I am very quickly throwing a few more replays in here. We got a couple more matches going on. Almost done. Alright, what time is it? 10:18. Okay. I want to go to 11. I want to give you guys an extra hour tonight because I'm a gracious nerd. Let me see. Almost done. Sort this by date modified. There we go. And then throw these. Oh. Throw them right there. Boom. Perfect. Okay. Okay. Let me check my Discord again real quick. I did shut it down earlier because I disabled all the noises and it kept making noises, so. Alright. Should have them in here now. Yep, perfect. Alright, so I'll give my spiel again real quick. If it's your first time here, welcome to ToothandTailTV, guys. I'm Delthius. I do this show every Tuesday and Thursday night, 8 p.m. EST. This stream is dedicated to hyping up Banner Bastion's first official tournament, the Team Takedown, the Houston Team Takedown. Isn't that it? Housed Banner Team Takedown, yeah. That's going to be next Saturday, 12 p.m. EST. You need a team of 3 to sign up, so grab a couple of your buddies. Sign up for this tournament. It's going to be a blast, man. I'll be casting it. I've got the sign-up page. If you just look right underneath the video you're currently watching in the Twitch profile, there's a link to the sign-up page on Challenge. And, man, don't be shy, dude. You know, even if you're new, even if you just play for fun, you're not super competitive, man, just join the tournament, dude. It's a lot of fun to do. It's always fun to compete, you know, even if it's not a big deal. So I highly recommend you guys join that tournament. Give me a bunch of good matches to cast. It's in a pretty unique style. I might have to get Bastion on here to talk about it with me maybe next week or something. But it's like series of 1v1 and 2v2s on your team, right? So that's a pretty cool way to do it. It's like a 1v1 and a 2v2 tournament combined. I don't know, man. I think he's got to take some precautions from not letting the dream team get established or anything, right? Like, imagine if like Classic Metal, DJ Soak, and Chip all join the same team or something crazy like that, or like a Bright Yellow, Mishi Gentleman team or something. That would be pretty nuts. But I'd almost like to see like a team-based tournament where you distribute the high-level players with everybody else, right? So all the big names that we know, like the Bright Yellows and the Chips and stuff, you spread them out on different teams and make them get tiered up with some more casual players. I think that would be a lot of fun. Thanks for the follow, Pez Lead. I appreciate it, man. All right, so my call was heated, and I got 3 more submissions while this show is going on to do for your enjoyment here. And then from there, we got a couple more games from Bonk we might finish the night out on, depending on the time. But without any further ado, let's do it, man. Let's go into Chameleon Flanking and Tanking. Ooh, all right. Spawning in the 9 o'clock position, we got Don Matro versus opponent Necromenticer. Now, Don Matro is a pretty well-known name. Don Matro sits around the top of the ladder pretty frequently. I played against him in the tournament. He's kind of got an aggressive playstyle to him. And Necromenticer, I've never heard. Maybe he's a newer player or something like that, which is always great to see. And, one thing about a game that's got a small economy, or not economy, but a small community, sometimes you get paired up against people that are much higher ranked than you are in the ladder, and that's okay, man. Don't get frustrated. Maybe you're a new player, you got to go up against the top player, man. And dude, you'd be surprised. That happened to me when I first started playing the game too, and I get paired up against guys like Chip and Bright Yellow and Mishi on the ladder. You know, 8-9 times out of 10, sure, they'll kick your ass, but when you take that one game off them, man, like if you take a game off Chip on the ladder, it's the best feeling in the world, dude. So it gives you a good opportunity to learn the game, and you know, any game that gives you access to replays is very, very good immediate feedback, man. You got to be honest with yourself in games like 1v1 RTSs, right? Like, you have to learn from your mistakes. If you try to say things like, oh, I lost because the map wasn't fair, or this unit's imbalanced, or something like that, you're taking away the personal responsibility out of it. So, you know, when you lose a game on the ladder, you're not sure exactly why you lost the game. You know, don't tilt and blame it on stuff out of your control. Just watch the replay. It takes 2 seconds. You don't even have to save the replays to quickly watch it after a game, right? And you can skim through them on ×5 speed or anything like that. And it's a really valuable learning tool, man. If you're a new player and you're on the ladder and you just get absolutely hammered by somebody and you're not sure what just happened, just watch the replay, man. And I guarantee you'll be able to figure it out. I mean, you're a smart nerd, man. You'll get it. So far, so good this game. You know, both players going for pretty mirror builds at this point. They both opted for 2 Tier 1 Warrens and going into the Tier 2 of their choice. Don Matro opting for that Ferret. Meanwhile, Necro going for the Chameleons. And I've never heard of Necro, but he's playing very well at this point. So if he is a new player, you're doing a great job so far, man. You're keeping up with Don Matro, and Don Matro is a pretty powerful player, so far so good, man. Don Matro coming in here to put some aggression on, but Don Matro is not aware of the fact that Necro has those Chameleons, and Necro coming in for the engagement, and unfortunately doesn't go super favorable for him, but he's really got to get in here and micro those Chameleons on top of those Ferrets and take some pretty heavy hits from those mines, but the Chameleons manage to get out with their lives. So as long as Necro just kind of hangs out in his territory for a minute, allows his Chameleons to heal back up, he'll be in pretty good shape. So far, nothing crazy done, right? I mean, actually, these guys are literally even right now. In fact, Necro's got a slight advantage at this point. Maybe... No, yeah. I was going to say that might have been the turret, but he did sell that turret he made, so... I don't think Necro's a new player, man. There's no way. He's playing really good, so... You know, both guys going for a really well-timed expansion. They both took their expansions right around, like, 3:30. Which I feel is about the right time, right? Because look, the expansion is finished now. If you throw a farm down, it'll be up in time for you to start saturating that base before your economy really starts going to the dumps at the 5-minute mark. And we're at the 4-minute mark here, and really Don Matro's plan is try to get as much value as possible out of these Ferrets. And Necro's really just got to micro his units on top of those Ferrets, manages to snipe both Ferrets from Don Matro, putting Necro in a pretty dominating lead here. So I'm getting a little bit worried for Don. And we're at the 4-minute mark, a little bit past it, so these guys gotta start thinking about their expansion soon, but don't necessarily need to start saturating up yet. And Necro really wanting to push the momentum that he's got, but I think that window might... No, it looks like he's doing very well here. Good timing attack out of Necro to take the advantage that he got in that last fight. You know, really push with that momentum to come in here, get on Don Matro's face, and it looks like he's going to seal the deal at this point, right? Yeah, he's right up on all that infrastructure, knocking out those warrants, knocks out a farm, decides to pull back, but Don Matro kind of realizes the damage has been done at that point, so great play out of Necro. I am very positive he's not a new player. Alright. Okay, guys, super short mini break. I'll be right back. Like 1 minute. Alright guys, I am back. Yeah, Necro said he didn't get into the alpha, but he's been really enjoying the game. Yeah, same here, man. I started playing maybe a few days after it launched or something, and I don't know, man. I just really fell in love with the game and tried to figure out a way I could help the community. That's kind of where the show came out of, so really great play there, man. You did a great job. And all right, guys. I got a new submission here. I'm really excited for my squawking for you guys to submit some last-minute stuff paid off. I got a new submission from Necro. That was his first time submitting. Really cool. And then it looks like I have a new submission here from Cursus. I'm excited about. So hopefully this is going to be a great game. He says he's a new player, so I'll try to go a little easy on him. Let's do it. All right. Spawning in the 8 o'clock position, we've got Cursus. And at 3 o'clock, we've got Delthius Hart. Let's take a look at these builds. You know, pretty bread and butter. I actually really like Cursus's build. I think that's really standard. You know, taking a tier 1, either squirrel or lizard, grabbing that pigeon, just because pigeons are high value. Like, I feel like pigeons are in a really good spot right now, because it's not like you have to take them, right? But they're still pretty viable options, so I like that composition, pairing those two units up together, grabbing a couple tier 2 you like, grabbing a tier 3 you like, and a turret. And meanwhile, Delthius is kind of going for this like smorgasbord tier 2 build. I like the coin, you know, when somebody's got like 3 or 4 tier 2 units with them, it gives them a lot of flexibility. It gives them a lot of options on how they want to approach the mid game, but you know, they're giving things up as well. You know, the build's not quite as well-rounded as it could be, but you're really just going for 3 tier 2 instead of like 4 isn't super crazy or anything. And really the only difference between these guys' decks is Delthius went for the chameleon while Cursus went for the pigeons. So we'll have to see how these guys want to approach this game. You know, so far everything's pretty standard. You know, Delthius went straight up to those 8 farms and threw down a Warren afterwards. Probably throw down a couple more Warrens before deciding which tier 2 unit he wants to go for. Meanwhile, you know, Curse is basically on the same track here. Both players at this point just getting a little bit of the lay of the land, figuring out what's going on with this map. Really interesting map, to be honest, and fairly balanced, I want to say, right? Like, both players have 3 gristmills that are pretty accessible to them. Both players... first expansion, their natural base, quote-unquote, is even more accessible, right? Like, that's a very easy natural base for Delthius, and same thing for Cursus. I mean, Cursus's base is really more of a pocket base than anything else, and Cursus coming in for some aggression with these lizards. Gonna be able to get a pig. I'd love to see him pull out at this point. And sure enough, he does, and manages to keep a couple lizards alive, so... Good game sense out of Cursus there, running in, getting some damage done, and pulling out on the back end of it, so... Gonna give them a little bit of an army value lead and a slight economic advantage until that 8th farm is retaken for Delthius there, which should be very soon. So now Cursus went for a pretty early expansion. We'll have to see if he gets away with it. But meanwhile, Delthius, man, Delthius actually went for this build that I wrote a guide about on Reddit when I first started playing the game. You know, getting out 2 tier 1 Warrens and a turret, and throwing out a Fox Warren. Now, where he kind of messed that up was just the positioning of the Fox Warren, I feel like, right? Like, if this turret's in a pretty good spot, but if he put his other Warrens, you know, just right here on the back end, he would have been able to keep that tier 3 Warren alive, and also kind of not give Cursus the information of, like, hey, I'm going for a very, very greedy tier 3, right? So, good scouting out of Cursus to identify that tier 3, knock it out very, very quickly, but unfortunately, a pretty bad trade there for Cursus. He went pretty all in on taking this gristmill, but gristmills have a lot of HP, man, and the rallying army for Delthius was able to come in and clean up Cursus's army and keep this gristmill alive for now. Now, it's not a complete loss, right, because that gristmill is super low, so if Cursus kind of does a follow-up attack, he might be able to take it out, but those 2 turrets are going to add a lot to this defense here. You know, but on the back foot of it, Cursus does have an expansion of his own, you right? he's not being super greedy on taking too many bases off that. And Chris has said, he's a very new player, and really the play out of this game hasn't been that bad, right? Like for newbies, they're playing fairly well. They're doing a good job managing their food, not getting too high. I like how they didn't, overbuild on their second base expansion. Nice little attack here from Cursus. Let's see if he overcommits or not. You really can't underestimate the damage of a well-defended turret, Turrets are pretty squishy. Turrets are gonna die relatively easily if they're not well defended, but those turrets out of Darius really got a lot of work done there, and I actually really like this decision out of Darius on the back end of that push. He's like, okay, I know I'm safe for a minute, at least, right? So I'm gonna go ahead and fully saturate up my expansion and put myself in a really good spot for the mid game. So the 5-minute mark did just hit. So 4 of those farms on the first base are gone right now. They're donezo, and we're getting to a pretty stabilizing mid game. Like Darius has an advantage here, right? But not an insane advantage. If Cursus, saturates up the rest of his base, he'll be in a good spot. But really staying on that 8 farm economy that I recommended, which is perfectly fine as well. Darius does have a stronger economy right now, but he's not going to really be able to hold on to that second base forever, by saturating it that quickly. So it's kind of weird. Like, it really depends on the state of the game and where you feel like the game's going, right? Like in this situation, I feel like the saturation from Darius was correct. Like, you want to get up that better economy, because I don't really foresee this game going to a starvation mode. But if you're playing a game against an opponent, you're going really neck to neck, investing in too many farms can be a pretty big blunder. But Darius has these farms really well protected with a pretty hefty turret line there, and Cursus is definitely aware of those turrets and mixes in the ferrets. So if Cursus just kind of sits back from this high ground, I'd actually really love to see a turret go down like right here for Cursus to fall back to, right? Just sit here and poke and prod these turrets. He's going to be in really good shape. You don't want to lose your commander. Yeah, he backs up just in time. But just sits here and gets a lot of free damage done. And if you're in Darius' spot here, the move to make is just sell those turrets, right? So keep that in mind. If you're ever on the receiving end of a ferret poking you and you got expensive defensive structures, man, just sell them off. They're not going to get any value for you. Cursus does go down in that fight, though, and that hurts him pretty significantly because he had a pretty good edge for a while. It looks like, unless I'm wrong, it looked like Darius had invested into his tier 3 but decided to cancel it and throw down more tier 2 instead. And this is really a good example of what I was talking about, though, about going too crazy on economy, right? Like, if you notice, Darius has his third base up. He's been going pretty hard on mining the second base, but Cursus just has the better army because he spent that same money on an army of his own and knocks out that gristmill. That's really huge for Cursus in this game, and that's going to absolutely devastate Darius' economy, which is really what he had going for him in the first place. And since he had built these other warrens in this area, those go down as well, which really hurts because when you do something like that, like if you take an expansion and you build warrens around it, you're really committing to that expansion, right? Unfortunately, looked like Cursus's commander must have died during that fight and lost some of his key units as a result of not being able to micro his army. I mean, really, at this point, it's up to Darius to get back into this game, right? I feel like Cursus is up on the army, he's up on the economy, and something like a Fox would be a good ticket to try to start gaining value over time, but I feel like Darius just hasn't really got this memo yet that these turrets are absolutely obsolete at this point, and is losing a lot of free money to this harassment out of Cursus here. And we'll have to see if Darius can manage to muster up a plan to get back into this game at this point. I mean, he's not down and out, right? He's still got a farm economy, which is respectable. He's got a couple units. He's got some Falcons on the way. But Cursus is up by, what? 8 tier 2 units at this point? So that's going to be very difficult to defend against, especially with 6 of those units being ferrets, man. 6 ferrets is nothing to scoff at all. But if he's not careful, these falcons could come in here and pick 1 or 2 out, but Curse isn't going to let that happen. Decides he's got enough, and now's the time to pull the trigger. Comes in here on his opponent, absolutely demolishing his army, and trying to position himself to seal the deal on this game. I'm not sure if there's a lot left Darius can do, right? So I think Darius is just kind of being annoying as this game ends. Yeah, trying to take an economy again, but I was going to kind of fast forward it through this a little bit. The game's over, guys. Darius is just hanging on as long as he can, making that 300 Spartan last stand against the Persian type of deal, right? But Curse just has too much and has managed to take the victory. Ah, man. You guys are great. Thanks for hanging out with me. 10:40. I've almost made it, man. Almost on a 3-hour stream. We're getting there, you guys. Alright, Warren, tank, and flank. Let's do it. Last call, man. If you haven't submitted, or if you haven't submitted in a while, man, you throw a game to me right now, I'll end the stream on it. I've got a couple lined up from Bonk, but we've done quite a few from Bonk, so I'd love to see one more unique submitter. That'd be really, really cool, you guys. ToothandTailTV@gmail.com. But spawning at the 8 o'clock, we got Calord. We saw him the other day, and at the 3 o'clock, we got Necro. Now, I'm not sure who submitted this game, if it was Necro or if it was Calord. It'd actually be really cool if it was Calord, and you know, typically the first name is the guy who submitted it, if you guys haven't caught on to that by now. I need to like randomize that or something, but you know, I feel like I get a good mix of guys who submit losses and stuff too, so just because the replay is submitted and you know who the submitter is doesn't necessarily mean they're going to win the game, right? So overall, I feel like this map is advantageous for Necro, right? I mean, he's got this nice natural base. He's got a pretty reasonable third. That's actually a very good third. Like, imagine if... Oh my god. Imagine if Necro took this campfire right here. And then just threw, like, a turret there and a turret there. He would make this wonderful zone to defend 3 gristmills and a campfire. I would love to see some play like that coming out of Necro here. But obviously he doesn't even need to do anything like that. He can just take those expansions at a reasonable time and be okay. And this map is pretty windy, right? Like, there's a lot of terrain, there's a lot of doodads, lots of trees and stuff like that in the way, and it is raining, which is really cool to see. They need to implement snow, man, on the snow maps. That would be freaking dope. But Calord isn't totally screwed, right? I mean, he does get a campfire, which is kind of consolation prize here, but you know, if Calord really muscles for some position on this map, I mean, he could effectively secure this northern base and hell, even this base in the middle of the map. So I wouldn't really say Calord is completely defenseless here, and this is what I'm talking about lizards versus squirrels lately, right? Like, lizards do beat squirrels in the open field, but when the squirrels kind of have these warrens to hide behind and tank some of the damage, it's really difficult for those lizards to get in there and do anything. And you know, Calord took the toads as well, which is going to make it even more difficult for these lizards to get any work done. So pretty standard stuff coming out so far, right? Like 3 to 5 tier 1 warrens, and then going up to tier 2. We're waiting on Calord to really make a decision here. I mean, he's gone up to 5 tier 1 warrens, which isn't crazy. Anything over 5 tier 1 warrens before you tech up is a little weird in my opinion, but Calord really comes in here and punishes Necromanticer's early campfire and trying to really take this middle map position, which is very critical, man. Like, Calord can't just sit around and let Necro kind of get this zone set up I was talking about earlier, right? Because if Necro can really manage to effectively take this campfire and set up some defensive structures here, it's going to cut off these two bases from Cal-Lord effectively, right? And it's going to put Cal-Lord in this position to really where the only viable expansion on the map for him is going to be up here in the 11 o'clock. I feel like he should be able to get that base regardless. And we are coming up to 340 on time, so it's about the time where people should be thinking about taking an expansion, and sure enough, Necro takes an expansion, and Cal-Lord does, so they make me look like I know what I'm talking about, so I always love to see that. And you know, pretty neck and neck at this point. I mean, those early engagements netted Cal-Lord about 180 extra food, right? You can see that because their economy is pretty neck and neck, the amount of food they're both floating, and Cal-Lord just has that one extra Tier 1 Warren to his name to show for it. And Cal-Lord trying to come in here and set up these turrets, which, again, you know, Necro can't sit around and let that happen. If either one of these players really dominantly sets up this middle of the map position, I mean, they're going to win this game. That's really what Tooth and Tail is all about, guys. It's all about map positioning, containing your opponent, creating zones, you know, drawing a line in the sand on the map that's favorable for you is really how you're going to win games. So, great play. I actually really like the game sense out of both these players so far. You know, Cal-Lord earlier from denying this campfire, and Necro here denying the second base of Cal, and that's actually really going to hurt Cal super bad because Necro did not mess around on his second base, man. He got in there and macroed that up pretty quickly. Not too quickly, right? Like, at first he just threw down 3 farms and then threw down an additional 3 later on, but it's going to be rough. Like, Cal-Lord really needed to babysit that Falcon a little better in that fight to be a little critical. I feel like if Cal-Lord had that Falcon behind his front line a little more, yeah, see how he kind of did that right there? If he would have done that in that previous engagement, I think he would have been in pretty good shape to take a pretty equal trade there, but Necro's got the tempo, and he's going to take advantage of it, and he's got the better economy behind him, and Cal-Lord taps out a little prematurely. I don't feel like Cal-Lord was completely dead there, but he certainly was getting there, so Cal-Lord taps out, and sometimes that's a move to make, man, so you can just sneak in more games. You know, that's why you don't want to be that guy that just sits there and does more and more stuff, kind of tries to drag the game out and be annoying, because you're just wasting time at that point, so. Alright, I got a last minute from Bonk we're going to do, instead of these other games from Bonk. I'm going to trust that this game is awesome. Then I think that's going to be it, guys. I think I'm going to call the show after this one. That'll put us right around at 3-hour mark. Boom. All right. Oh, getting a couple of messages. All right. Hey, what's up, Awkward Fish Guy? Yeah, I was giving you a shout out, man. I'm sorry I forgot to install your skins on Tuesday. But I did get them in here for this cast, and I actually absolutely love your Chinese pigs, man. Their cute little Fu Manchu mustaches and hats are pretty adorable. All right, so we're gonna end on another Bonk submission, guys. Here we go, Bonk versus Saint Valentine. Let me grab a little bit of my drink here. All right. Hey, thanks for the follow, Necromanticer. I appreciate it, man. Let's do it, guys. Okay. Spawning in this 6 o'clock. We got Bonk. And in the 12 o'clock, Saint Valentine. Pretty cool name, man. Valentine's always a pretty sweet name. I always think of Vincent Valentine from Final Fantasy VII. My favorite game of all time. But we'll have to see what these guys do. This map looks visually interesting to me, right? There's a lot of doodads, and it's interesting because only this, like, 9 o'clock to 5 o'clock section is really useless, right? Like, over here. You can kind of cut that out of the map and say that the real map, you know, excluding Bonk space, is kind of more like that. But it's interesting that the map almost did the same thing over here, but threw 2 gristmills in, which could be pretty contestable. And as far as spawns go, I mean, Bonk gets a slight... Well, no, Bonk's got a serious advantage, actually. This is going to be very difficult for St. Valentine. So I'd like to see if St. Valentine can identify that and kind of create an improvised strategy based around the fact that he's pretty screwed on expansions this game, right? I mean, St. Valentine can take this base fairly well. But these two other bases over here, I was a little more excited about because I thought at first look that St. Valentine could maybe walk this way and get over to him, right? But all three of these expansions and this campfire pretty securely belong to Bonk, right? St. Valentine would have to walk all the way through Bonk's territory, knock on his door, come over here, and then take the base, which isn't out of the question completely. I mean, it would be really cool to see Valentine try to sneak by and maybe grab this gristmill underneath Bonk's nose or something like that to take a hidden base. But, you know, Bonk is doing a good job trying to get the layout of the land for himself. You know, he's starting to recognize how favored this map is for him. So I believe both players at this point should be aware of the situation. Yeah. So I wonder how that's going to adjust their play. And sure enough, Bonk is going for some crazy nonsense here, going straight for an owl right off the bat, man. No tier 1, no nothing. And this is what I was kind of talking about earlier, man. If you're super greedy and your opponent lets you get away with it, it's going to make a crazy game. And St. Valentine is not in the industry of letting his opponent get away with it. And at this point, he really is not sure what his enemy is up to. He's going to come in here, not see any war, and sees that tier 3 immediately. He's got to be happy about that because he's got a big army ready to go. And Bonk, man, Bonk is geared up for the macro. So yeah, so Bonk effectively adjusted his build. A little too crazy to be sure, but he's definitely going for a macro style, right? He recognizes the fact, okay, 3 out of the 4 gristmills on this map basically belong to me, so I'm going to be super greedy and go ahead and claim them. And a little bit of critique is you don't really, like, he didn't need to spend the 60 food on taking this base. I would have liked to see Bonk just take this one and throw an extra farm on there because this gristmill by itself is not doing anything for Bonk at this moment. But unfortunately, man, Valentine is missing his window of opportunity, and I don't think he's getting the memo completely here because he's trying to match greed with greed. As you can see, you know, he's already got his Badger building, and he's got a little bit of a well-rounded army comp. You know, 9 squirrels, 3 pigeons is pretty good to go, but I would agree with St. Valentine's play if this was an even map, right? But the map is not even. The map is very favored towards Bonk, so the correct move out of Valentine would have been to just go crazy on Bonk's face, you know, build up like 21 squirrels and just do some crazy non-stop hard aggression. And hell, if I was Valentine, I probably would have even snagged this gristmill right here just as a fallback spot. You know, if it doesn't get up, that's fine. It'll probably tank some damage in the engagements, but if it does get up, you get that territory to heal your units. You can build some forward turrets, and the siege from the siege from Bonk is already starting here, and super high value play coming out of Bonk so far. I mean, he literally didn't lose anything in that engagement, and did some pretty serious damage to Valentine. So that is gonna make this game harder and harder for Valentine. I'm trying to think what he could do to win this. He does have the ferrets coming up, but he sat back too long, guys. That's the big takeaway from this. You know, if you're in Valentine's position, you have to be very, very aggressive because these drumfire cannons out of Bonk are just simply worth their weight in gold. I mean, these 2 drumfire cannons are defending 4 gristmills for Bonk here, and also giving him a pretty good spot that he can kind of run back to, right? Like, the front line is not very far away from those drumfires. Like, he can inch his ferrets up, poke and prod, and then run back just a little bit and be in firing range from those drumfire cannons. So, really good investment coming out of Bonk there. I think Bonk is playing this very well. I just would have liked to see Valentine be a bit more aggressive in the earlier phases of the game, and we'll see if he can muster up a strategy, right? Like, he does have the Falcons, which actually is a really big deal. One thing that Valentine could do right now, if you find yourself in a similar situation, is I would if I was Valentine, I'd probably sell off all my other stuff and just build nothing from Falcon. Because look at this composition out of Bonk, right? He's got drumfire cannons, he's got ferrets, he's got owls. None of that can attack air. So Falcons are really the key here to breaking Bonk's position. And I like that move out of Bonk, just inching his drumfire cannons up a little bit. Now, since he did sell off his old ones before building the new ones, this does give Valentine a little window of opportunity to come in here and knock out these drumfire cannons before they finish building. But that's really important if you're a new player, guys. You get a complete 100% refund in this game for selling stuff, right? Like normally, like a game like StarCraft, you know, you build a spawning pool for 200 minerals, you sell it, you probably get like 140 back or something. It's not like that in Tooth and Tail, man. If you build a squirrel warren and it produces 3 squirrels and you sell that warren, you'll get 120 food back. You will lose those 3 squirrels, but you'll get a full refund for the warren and the units. So really the move Valentine needed to make to stand a chance in this game, in my opinion, would be sell off everything and just make a ton of Falcons. And it looks like he's starting to get that memo now, and building more and more Falcons, but I don't know, man. The economy out of Bonk is out of control at this point. 18 farms to 8 is absolutely insane. You could say it's bonkers. Haha. We'll have to see what Bonk wants at this point. Going for 2 foxes, that's a pretty interesting play. The double fox is going to allow him to snipe tier 2 units like those ferrets in one shot, which is really good. Really all Bonk has to do is sit back and wait at this point. And another little tip if you're a new player is you want to kind of leave maybe like 1 or 2 farms open here in case we get to like a starvation period. You have a couple farms to fall back on and kind of delay the game a little longer, but to be honest, man, 22 farms to 8, it shouldn't matter too much. So again, like when you're looking at this map, it looks like it was an imbalance, and I try not to be really critical on players, but the reason I was talking about so much of what I think Valentine should have done is it kind of give you an idea if you get stuck in a similar situation to this, right? Like if you're on a map where the gristmills are just not favoring you, and or you scout your opponent going for something really crazy like a really fast tier 3, man, just flip the switch, dude. Just build a ton of tier 1 and get in there and dominate your opponent. And I love this play out of Valentine, trying to sneak around and hit the defenses of Bonk in a more favorable position, but Bonk trying to do a little flank attack with only his lizards, and that's a really good response to this because Valentine's army is really out of position, so these lizards out of Bonk could effectively get a lot of damage done, but Bonk is more concerned about managing his main army at this point and pretty effectively just kind of clean sweeps the army of Valentine here. And I try to keep suspense in games, guys, but 22 farms to 7. I mean, what could you really do if you're Valentine? Another kind of cheeky play Valentine maybe could have done if he had a lot of Falcons was kind of like run his commander through here and place his commander like right here and then rally the Falcons over, like how we saw Banner Bastion do on Tuesday night in that insane free-for-all. But Bonk's got such an economic advantage at this point. He's going to come in here and absolutely roll over Valentine at this point. And I think Valentine is going to have to tap out here shortly. Yeah, there it is. Yeah, so that's kind of a learning game. Actually, I really like that submission. You know, like when Valentine came in and scouted that very, very early tier 3 from Bonk, the correct play if you're in Valentine's shoes, especially when the map is kind of stacked against you like that, it just spam the hell out of tier 1, man. Maybe go attack your opponent when you get like 9 squirrels together. Alright guys, that is it for tonight. I gave you 3 hours. I gave you 1 more hour than normal because I'm a gracious caster, and I appreciate everybody hanging out with me and checking out the stream and let me show off some of these wonderful games from the submitters here. If you're new to the stream, I hope you had a good time on your first night here. This is ToothandTailTV. I do it every Tuesday and Thursday nights, 8 p.m. EST. I normally only go for 2 hours, but I figured I'd give you guys an extra hour tonight because I love y'all so much. And normally I do have a partner caster with me. He recently just had a baby, so he's being responsible and not messing around with video games and, you know, taking care of his child spawn, which totally makes sense. But the whole dedication of the stream tonight is for the Banner Team Takedown Tournament. Please sign up for this, guys. It's going to be a lot of fun. The House Banner Team Takedown, November 18th, 2017, next Saturday, 12 p.m. EST. I'm going to be casting it, man. I might have a caster with me. I might be doing a solo bolo. I don't know. I don't care. Either way, I'm going to have a ton of fun at the tournament, and I highly recommend you and your buddies form a little team together and get in there and sign up for the tournament, man. And don't be shy, you know, just hit out in the Discord, you know, hey, does anybody want to form a team for me for the tournament, you know? The more tournaments and little things like that we can get going, the better it is for the game, the better it is for the community. That's a big piece of advice I got when I got to meet Day 9 at TwitchCon for a minute. You know, he was telling me the more little leagues we can make, the more tournaments we can make, the more little competitive things we could do is definitely better. And we get the Clash of Comrades, big stuff coming on every now and then, but I love to see guys like Banner Bastion stepping up in the meantime and filling the gap and making sure we have some great tournaments to participate in the meantime. So definitely check that out, man. Andy seems like he's hard at work right now with an upcoming balance patch, so if you are new to the stream, I do make the commitment, if you submit me a replay, I will cast at least one of your games. But I also only stay on the most recent patch, right? Because I don't want to play older patches and confuse new players or anything like that. So, guys, get to work this weekend, man. I am out of content. I need new replays for Tuesday. I get through at least 12 games a night. So hit up my inbox, man, ToothandTailTV@gmail.com. Throw me all your games. I don't care if you're high level, new player, free for all, 2v2s, whatever you want, man. I'll be happy to cast it. I appreciate everybody sticking around with me and checking out these wonderful submissions. So that's really all I got, man. And thanks to Alogian and Awkward Fish Guy for making skins. It's super cool. I'm really looking forward to Logan's new Executioner Chameleon. That looks awesome. So I'm done for the night, you guys. It looks like Mishi is getting go on his stream, so I'm gonna go ahead and give that host over to Mishifus. You're all a bunch of beautiful nerds, and I will see you guys back here Tuesday night, 8 p.m. EST. Until then, get to work on the ladder this weekend, and take care, and have a good night, everybody. Well, I'll see ya.